Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Welcome to 50 Shades of Guy, a podcast about bondage.
Danny Elfman.
What about Danny Elfman?
Danny Elfman. He did the music for this movie.
No!
I just saw.
No.
He did the music.
No, really?
Yes.
Man, that's like Ennio Morricone's done some things you're like, why? And you realize, oh, they just want to work.
Yeah, they just want to work.
Yeah.
It's the cinematographer of The Rock and Airheads.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
and Mr. Wrong.
I'm not surprised to hear people who made this movie have worked on other things.
Yeah. I know. The cinematographer, it is what it is. Danny Elfman, though, it's just like, man.
Man, for real. I mean, I couldn't tell you anything about the music at all.
They were like, hey, Danny, how'd you like to work with the director of Glengarry Glen Ross? And he was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. What movie is it? And they're like, yeah. Don't worry the movie. Don't worry what movie it is.
You'll see. You'll see.
Yeah. We've come so far.
This is one of the least entertaining movies I've ever seen in the sense of like attempting to put a story together and having us care about that story.
Well, it's
right.
It's too little, too late. It is.
Yeah.
They didn't have for the first two movies. They forgot to have any movie, and so they're like, shit, we better put some movie in this.
Right.
We have to, and so like what it amounts to is a trilogy, where as we suspected, you don't really need the first movie.
No.
And then the second and third could have been put into one movie.
So I actually think the most on point plot line of the stories is the first movie where they're negotiating what the relationship is.
Yes, I missed that.
But me too. But they so thoroughly abandoned it forever. Basically at the end of the first movie.
Ever.
Yeah. That it was like, okay.
Why does this have bondage in it?
I don't know.
What is the artistic reason?
I don't know. Because like they even abandon it as like a psychological problem in this movie. Like, so there's really nothing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's astounding.
There's no reason for it in the entire series.
No.
The series is meaningless. That's what we're realizing.
Which, like, I guess we knew because everything in our bones was screaming that up top. But, like, I assumed they'd at least, try to tie it up in a way that felt like it meant something. Nope.
It's all right. So it does mean a little bit. And I don't know if we want to jump to the end.
I don't know. I don't know what you want to do. Well, whatever you want to do, man.
Look, we've recorded this 3 different ways at this point.
Yes, we have.
We're recording on the internet now.
Yeah.
We're in cyberspace.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We're
in virtual reality.
Which is like normally our comfort zone. But see, Dave and I were like, what if like we should get together in person and like really go for it for this?
Right.
Which we did. And then on Friday, when we were supposed to record this episode, the unthinkable happened. The unthinkable. Which was that I had my car door smashed to pieces by a tow truck as I was getting out of the car to go record this podcast.
I would argue you had a day of being attacked directly by tow trucks.
I really did.
You were assaulted by tow trucks.
I really did. There was more than once, and that's not a bit. That's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go into all the details of that, but I don't think everybody's gonna be that entertained by it. I just think
they were your sex jokers that day. You had multiple sex jokers go after you.
The missing
in the form of tow trucks.
The missing sex jokers. Like that's where they showed up.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we had one prediction last time that was wrong. However, every other prediction we had was right.
Yeah.
Like if you remember, we threw out all these ideas, assuming only maybe one or two of them would be true, and instead they're all. They somehow managed to make every movie and no movie with this film.
I mean, it seems very clear to me that this is the product of there has been success in the series. We need to keep it going.
Yeah,
that's how it feels to me.
Something to happen.
Yeah.
We predicted the helicopter was sabotage, and it was.
Yeah.
We predicted there'd be sex jokers, and there was, except we didn't get the
wrong person,
lady, Mrs. Robinson. We thought she's going to get pregnant, and she did. We thought they're going to get married, and they did.
Right.
We thought there'd be like cheating in it a little bit, and there sort of is. We thought she was going to become the dom, and she does in a way. It's all in there.
Yeah, I mean, like in the Obi-Wan sense, like from a certain point of view, we were right about everything.
Yeah. Well, basically, it ends on the student has become the master. He says, "You're topping from the bottom, Mrs. Gray."
He
that
does
is
say
one of the
that.
last line. Yeah. No, she's the dom. She's topping from the bottom because she shot someone.
Right.
She earned it. We'll get into that.
Shot someone.
This movie. So, would you confirm this? This movie is the same plot as the Batman. Is it not?
I guess so. I guess it does.
It's about an orphan who seeks revenge against another orphan.
Right. Yes.
And who is doing an elaborate plot, which I want to talk about.
Right.
Jack's. When did Jack plan this? What part of it was a plan?
Agreed.
This terrorist plot against him, and at the end, Christian realizes that he's no different. That's the arc. Is Christian realizing like if I had his life, I would be no different, would I? And that is more or less the Batman, not to go too much in the Batman, but it's about the idea that it's like, oh yeah, we're not we're the same person.
I mean, I think that Christian Grey's connection to Bruce Wayne generally is pretty palpable throughout all three. And that's not a bit.
Batcave.
Yeah, sex Batcave. He runs a company in a sort of like devil may care way because it's. Does it say that he inherited it? Did he inherit this company?
I don't know. He's all orphaned. He was an orphan, and then he was adopted into a rich family. And I think that's it. I think that's as much as it gives us.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know how he got his money, but in any case, it's pretty clear he doesn't know how to run a business.
No,
and it's clearly funding his other drive in life, which is, I think,
sex Batman.
I mean, yeah, he says, but like I think these movies sort of prove like, oh no, you just never met a girl you liked. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we go?
Did you watch the unrated version? Because I didn't, and I
absolutely did. Why wouldn't I?
Oh, was it any sexier?
I mean, I couldn't compare it. I'll say it was never sexy. Does that answer your question?
Okay, that does. I didn't watch it because I was like, well, that's going to be longer, and I don't want to watch the longer version.
I definitely didn't enjoy any of these movies as much as I enjoyed Twilight. Is that a fair statement up top?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even this movie, which is trying its hardest, 40 minutes in, there are kidnappings and car chases.
Yeah, they're doing stuff.
And I was bored.
Yeah.
So it starts with we had clouds, flowers, and now we have wedding dress for the credits.
Yeah, it's all wedding kink here.
Yep.
Which is so I just want to establish a reasonable person would think that there's about a year between the third act of the second movie and like when the first act actually starts of this movie. Like then about a year would go by. That isn't true, by the way. We find out later. But like, just assume
How long is it?
Oh, dude, there's a line that she tells the detectives that like when they're talking about what happened with Jack. Oh, a few weeks ago he was fired.
Oh my God.
What?
She's married. Oh my God. They've been together a few weeks.
I mean, maybe a month or two. Maybe.
Shit.
Yeah, it's astounding. And I think sort of proof of that, if you care to look for it, is her mother and father nowhere to be found in this wedding.
I was about to say, at the wedding, I wrote the question, are her parents there? And then it was quickly like, no.
Her mom her mom is in the background with the extras in one shot.
Oh no!
It's really bad.
Jose is in this, and I don't think he speaks.
Yeah.
He's just in the background as well, even though he shows up.
He has one major triumph in this movie that I don't want to speak about yet because it's very good. I know we don't want to talk a lot about the marriage, so I just want to get my 2 jokes out of here, like my 2 or 3 jokes. Here's the first one. Why are the rings not like at least a little kinky? Like, why doesn't he get a leather?
They should be little handcuffs.
Yeah, a little handcuff. Yeah, come on, put it on the finger. Let's do it.
Ball gags. They should have exchange ball gags.
Right? Like, as long as they don't give a shit about anybody's perception of them, which they couldn't to be doing this, why not go all the way?
The reason why is because they're not really that kinky.
No, exactly.
Like
right.
It's like Christian Grey is like a guy who's like, I'm really into video games, and then you go into his arcade and it's like the most basic shit ever.
Right. I have Mario and Donkey Kong. It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
They get married in front of one of those Lyft profile photo backgrounds. Yeah. It's a really shitty wedding.
It looks like rotting cotton candy balls. Like, it's not an appealing image at all, I thought.
No. And it's like, you have so much money. They get into an SUV, a corporate SUV, instead of a limo. And it was like, you can't afford a limo, bro? Come on, man. What is this?
I can never figure out who's deciding like their itinerary for anything. Their itinerary is always baffling. I don't mean just the wedding itinerary. I mean, their honeymoon's weird. When he has to work is weird. What he does is weird. Like there's just no logic to any of it.
Their honeymoon is as basic as it comes. First, they get to the private plane, and I wrote this down. She sees it, and she gasps, and she goes, "You own this?" And he says, "We own this." To which I thought, you have been in so many of his planes at this point.
Yes. That's where.
How are you still surprised?
You know what a cool move for her there would have been if she just asked for a list of his holdings. Because he keeps talking about how now you own this. It's like, great. Can I get a list? I just want to know what I own.
She still doesn't make any decisions.
Right.
Like,
right.
She doesn't like go take the jet out for a spin. She doesn't do anything fun. She goes out for a drink with her friend, and she couldn't be more nervous about doing it. And she's so trapped, and it doesn't feel like she actually owns anything. They have extremely vanilla fucking honeymoon. It's just Paris, bike rides, off to the beach, jet skis. He gets very possessive of her showing her boobs on the beach.
There was a reason that they gave that made a little sense. Like, not enough to justify
tabloids.
It. Yeah, tabloids. I was like, okay, I could see why he would care about that.
Right, but it's just like, come on, man, calm down. You're married.
Right, and also, from what I'm not familiar with everything there is to do in Paris, but that honeymoon seemed like it was a 6-month globetrotting trip to me.
Right.
Like that montage. It's
not just Paris.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like it would have taken forever. But again, it turns out probably 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, time is meaningless. He braids her hair. They take a jet ski to a boat and then have some boring handcuff sex. And those are the moments where it's like, fuck on the jet ski. Fuck on the jet ski.
Right. At least do a stunt with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
Luckily, this is intercut with an act of terrorism. Jack gets into the goddamn Grey business and sets off a bomb.
Yeah.
And hacks into their servers like he's fucking Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
He's suddenly an expert hacker.
Yeah, and also he Ocean's 11 his way in there too. Where he's like using a fake ID and like wearing a hat and like planting a bomb in the server room, and it's like, what is this guy's like capacity? Like what is he capable of on a broad spreadsheet level? No idea.
What we learn in this is that it's about his birthright, and that is madness.
Sure.
Because that makes you ask all sorts of other questions, like, did he work at that publishing company as a trap? Was it all
right?
Because so they fundamentally changed his motivation, because in the other film it's like, oh, he got fired and he blames her for it. No. That's not what he's actually mad about. It turns out, I thought he was just going to straight up be his brother.
That would have been
his brother.
Yeah, I thought that maybe he was like a child that they passed over or something instead. Like,
yeah,
which I guess is kind of what it ends up being.
Yeah, but it's wild. It's either the biggest coincidence ever that he happened to be her boss, or it was part of his master plan.
Right. I think the movie is suggesting it had to be part of his master plan. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think that
wild.
Right. It's absolutely bananas. It's like it's stupid on the level of like the plot of that Christopher Nolan, The Prestige, where it's like these two twins decide to split half a life. It's like, no, nobody would do that. You know what I mean? Why would you do that?
Yeah. No, it's like a Scream movie, like when you realize like this character has been trying to get close because he wants to kill them all. He had to, if that was his plan, when she first gets hired, she's not dating Christian in the second one.
Right.
So he's a lot of mechanisms in place for this plan.
He took some gambles that paid off insofar as they did actually advance his master plan when they definitely could not have. Right? Like that's one of them. Like, he's like, I better work in this publishing thing because I know this woman is into publishing. You know what I mean? But then they got together. He's like, fuck. He's probably like going in his office. Fuck.
But that means that he had to have gotten a career in publishing.
Right.
Like he didn't just get that job. He'd have to like go to school for it.
He went to Princeton. They say that. He went to Princeton.
So it's actually more likely that this is a wild coincidence.
Well, I mean, look, what we're saying, of course, is that the writing is terrible. But I think it's more fun to accept the movie on its own terms and say, therefore, because of what he ends up doing, he must have been planning somehow to get a career that would get him close to Christian Grey. Must have been
I don't understand what happened otherwise. It's so fucking weird. He is a supervillain. He's a sex villain because he blackmails women too with sex videos. Right. He is sex Joker. He is sex Joker.
Yeah, he is the sex Joker. That's correct. It doesn't like, I'm surprised, like, taking a step back and thinking about from a film producer standpoint, I'm surprised that the producers didn't step in and ask these questions. Or like the studio didn't go like, wait a minute, can't we clean this up a little bit so it makes a little more sense? Like, you know, like, can't we explain this?
$370 million off a $55 million budget.
Yeah, all right.
The producers they were like, just put in the bare minimum sex. That's the thing. This doesn't even have sex in it, really.
Not really.
It has sex scenes, and we'll get into that. But it feels like the sex stuff slowly diminished through each film to the point that this movie has nothing. It's just every now and then they stop to have sex, and it doesn't have anything to do with the plot.
It's always a substitution for an emotional conversation too, by the way, in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, in this movie, the first major sex scene is on that yacht, right? And it's set up as, and now I'm going to punish you for disobeying me. But, like, it's very clearly not a punishment because she clearly enjoys it and he clearly enjoys it, which is to say he's no longer really working out any trauma in this.
Right. And again, they're just having slightly kinky sex. It's not even like...
Maybe a little-ish.
It's just some handcuff stuff.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
I would say by the end, she's a little more kinky than he is.
Yeah.
Right? He seems to be completely over it. He's not even worried about his chest scars anymore.
Right.
That's gone. You know?
That's, I guess, the arc. This is more about Christian. It's weird. This movie is more about Christian's arc, but he has less to do in it.
Yeah.
And then Anna her arc is very subtle, which is basically she just becomes the dom, but like not even, it's about her like kind of taking control of their social life, like taking control of like, I'm calling the shots here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, she wears the pants ultimately. Exactly.
And that's fine, but it's very subtle because there's not much of an arc there. There's not much pushback. Things just sort of happen as always.
It's also her just sort of settling into being rich. being the rich woman of the house. Like, that's really what she goes through in this movie.
Yeah, basically. So they find out it was Jack. Wait.
We've skipped 3 things that are really important. Forgive me. I don't mean to.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we grab them. So, like, one of them is, no, we didn't discover it. Anna discovers it by way of her incredible ability to see camera footage and PI things.
She's like the fucking Terminator. Right. They show this dark footage, and she goes, "Oh no, that's Jack."
The detectives are fucking mystified. Thank God she's here.
She's with her superhuman vision, figures that out.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Completely unbelievable.
That's when he says, "By the way, my chopper crash probably wasn't an accident." And it's like, oh,
right,
all right,
and he knew that. Oh, but can I? This brings me to a thing that we should have talked about last episode, and I don't want to go on forever about it because I know that neither of us wants to do a 6-hour podcast. But like,
sure.
Or maybe we do. But like, look. Why was he flying over Mount St. Helens? Did we talk about this? Why was he flying over that?
That was the shortest way to get to Seattle.
Over a volcano? Like, I just I don't understand it.
He was flying to Seattle. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take a little Mount St. Helens detour.
It just is, it was one of those like, wait, I thought this was a business trip. What possible business could have taken him here? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
They don't explain much about that fucking helicopter crash.
Other than that, Jack is an incredible spy and the worst, like, kidnapper terrorist ever. Like, the CIA needs to get a hold of him and just pair him with a guy who's good on the mic when it comes to kidnapping. You know what I mean?
Because Jack does... He does 2 kidnappings. One, he fails miserably. And the second one, he's rolling for like a minute, and then he fails miserably.
Right. The dude is fucking Solid Snake when it comes to infiltrating a fortress. You know what I mean? But everything after
getting
that,
out with somebody else, doesn't work out.
Can't do it. Absolutely.
So they're married. He brings her to the apartment, and they then discuss, do you want to have kids?
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, oh my God.
I could not believe it. They had never had that talk, and it was like, what? Yeah.
He gets mad later, and he's like, you're not taking my name. And it's like, again, seems like a conversation you'd have before you get married.
Like, for a guy who understands a lot about contracts, he really fucked up the prenuptial thing and like the just relationship negotiation. Like, he just bailed on that.
Yeah,
right.
She's asked how she wants to run the house, and so that's when we get into like, what kind of rich snob are you going to be? And that's when she like casually mentions wanting kids, and she's like, you want to have kids, right? And it's like, holy shit, you guys. That is really bad. That's terrible.
The writer should have just put that as backstory, that they had a conversation about kids and hadn't agreed on it, and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. Why didn't they do that?
Yeah,
you know,
you have that come up a few times in the honeymoon or something, and or you have it. Yeah,
sure. Like, she's like, I want to talk. Like, hey, that'd be nice with baby clothes. I told you I don't want to talk about that, and that's it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's just occurring to them to have this talk.
And, unbelievable. It's also like, what does he want to be rich for, really? Like, I mean, I know what it is. It's just, a life of pleasure.
Stuff.
Right, a life of pleasure, but like, I just feel like, well, maybe this guy wouldn't want a family. Actually, so I'm going to backtrack on that. I get why he wouldn't want to have kids.
Yeah, I wouldn't want this guy around kids.
Right, but then, but once he decides to get married, I feel like he's just opened up the door to this. I think, anyway.
Yeah, he has no idea what he wants. He's on a rampage.
Correct.
A love rampage here. We get her personal security guy, Sawyer. Who the movie wants us to know he's cute.
Yeah, the movie.
He's sexy. Every woman thinks so.
He is one of. I'm gonna go down to the actual end. He is one of 8 people who I thought would have been a better protagonist for this movie.
I literally wrote, "Where's my Sawyer movie?"
Yeah, Sawyer could have been a great protagonist. Also, wouldn't have minded him and Mrs. Jones and what their escapades would have been. They seem both like they were fun.
Yeah. They were great.
Yeah.
Christian bursts into her office, and he's like, I tried to send you an email to Mrs. Gray, but it bounced. And it's like, then call her. Just call her. Right? Why are you here?
He's so desperate not to work. Any reason not to do anything at his job, right?
And he's like ruining her. She's having a business meeting, and he just bursts in, and it's like, dude, calm the fuck down, or I'll have Sawyer tase you. Like, come on, man. I'm trying to work. I just got a new... She just got promoted without anybody telling her or giving her an offer. She just walks in, and her office is different.
Well,
and
she was
like,
on vacation.
The office? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, you're now the boss. And she's like, oh, thanks for asking me. Like,
while she was on vacation.
How much am I making? Do I get to negotiate any of this? Her life is out of her control.
Right. But like, also, I just think it's so amazing that somebody had to stomach the idea of like, she's getting a promotion. Oh my God, for real? And like, they had to push all the paperwork through and everything, all with her being out of the office on her honeymoon. Like, just the resentment that would have been coursing through their bodies, you know?
I'd be so pissed because, again, there's no process. They just promote her without telling her or and they just redecorate her office.
Or her applying or and knowing.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's so good.
It's amazing.
It implies that most of what happens in this is actually a play that's being put on to keep their lives interesting. Which I thought that might actually be going on.
Like Christian hired people, like it's the game.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that make more sense than what happens?
Absolutely.
Like, you know, just keep her interested. My God, keep her interested. I'm so boring. I got to keep paying for interesting things to happen to her. Right?
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
You know? I mean, that's actually kind of an interesting movie idea, is like, rich guy has to keep his wife entertained. You know?
That would be great.
Yeah.
That's not
idea.
This movie.
That's right. But producers write that down.
It's just this woman getting thrown into different situations. So he's like, get in my car. I'm bringing you somewhere. And she's like, let me drive. And he's like, no. And he takes her to a haunted house. And he's like, oh, this is the house that we passed by. They foreshadowed this when they were in the boat.
That paid it off.
The widow house. And he's like, I bought you the house.
Dave, my thrill here was the one thing this movie meticulously paid off. It was every single property that was planted. They were all paid off in this movie.
It was like they got a note. It was like they got like a lot of critical response of like, what's with all the properties they set up, and they're like, well, we'll pay them all off.
We better fucking see it. We better see that Aspen property. We better see that seaside mansion again. We better see it.
And we do.
We do.
But then we meet Gia the architect.
Second protagonist I would have been interested in watching.
Also another orgy opportunity.
Right.
She's flirting with Christian Grey, and we learn that they're going to tear down the house and put some like new piece of shit. And so it's like, oh, okay, so you bought her property. He's like, I bought you this house, and it's like, but we're going to tear it down. It's like, well, then you didn't buy her house.
You bought her land. You bought land for a house and some, a foundation, baby. Right.
Yeah.
They actually cut to when she gets dressed down by Anna. In her first move toward rich supervillain, they actually cut to a gulp reaction from Gia that really blew my mind. I could not believe it. This is like 20 minutes into the movie, by the way. Yeah, please.
Gia looks like Christian's sister. They openly flirt, which is weird.
Yep. It's very strange.
Yeah. And then, she takes her aside, and I love that she says, get back in your shit-colored car. Because she has a brown car. And she just pulls like a Karen on her.
Yep.
She's just like, but I mean, she is definitely like, the struggle is that Gia is like very flirty with Christian and also not treating Anna like she's
in charge
now.
Or the wife.
Like she's treating her like another girlfriend. And so she's just like, listen here, you dick. This is what I want, and if you fucking flirt with him again, I'm gonna beat your ass. I'm gonna beat you with a sack of money. And so she puts Gia in her place, and I guess we're supposed to be happy.
But it comes off
that this happened.
It comes off as like, oh, she's becoming rich and entitled and terrible. Like already,
and
that's happening.
She's becoming Christian.
Right. Exactly.
Like And so it's like, all right. And then I guess Christian's like, you've earned the ability to drive.
Right. How did that? Yeah, exactly.
From being a shitty person to Gia.
You know what? You're shitty now. That means you should drive the rich car. It was astounding. Also, the driving had a musical montage that was extremely funny to imagine somebody playing. Like, just like some guy rocking out while they're driving. I like just once in a while it's really nice to imagine somebody's job is to play the musical instruments while watching this footage. That really thrilled me this time. And then, if you don't mind me co-opting this, because this was the beat that blew my mind. And then they realize they're being tailed, although they have a security entourage that just disappeared.
Their security is bad.
Yeah.
She loses the security.
Yeah.
And they constantly are able to lose their security detail, and every time it's bad. Yes, they go, let's lose our bodyguards, and then it's bad for them, and then they keep doing it.
But the security guards do seem to be able to see anything that is happening in time and space that's convenient. So okay. Anyway, so Christian looks over to Anna and says, "Lose him." Like, lose this tail, and suddenly she's racing around like she's fucking Michael from Grand Theft Auto 5.
It's so good. Like, also, when he says lose him, they're on a single road in the middle of the woods. It was like, lose him? Where? And then the movie, as if answering that question, is like, yeah, you're right. They get followed all the way to the city because they can't lose them. It's a single road.
It's truly thrilling. They basically yada-yada'd this car chase.
Right.
You know, because they had to.
Yep. And then once again, they have sex in the parked car, to which I thought, why didn't they have sex during the car chase? Why isn't that what's happening?
That was the moment that I realized none of this was really happening. Like, that was the moment where I realized, oh, Christian's hiring these people because it gets her hot.
It must be.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I think is really happening here. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like when we get to her shooting the guy at the end, that's the ultimate Michael Douglas the Game moment in this movie. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Boy. Okay.
Yeah.
So they see some traffic camera, and this time Anna can't make out the face, but they realize it's a woman, and I was like, oh shit, sex joker, but it's not. Let's see, and then he's just like, by the way, we're going to New York.
Right. Okay.
And she's like, no, we're not.
Right. Wait,
it's like, for fuck's sake, just tell her about things in advance. That's all. Just say a week earlier, hey, I need this to do this trip. Do you want to come?
I think he's so terrified of what a Wednesday is like with nothing on the agenda. Like, I think he's so scared of that moment that it's just a barrage of stuff to do. Is this the part where we watched a haircut?
Like, I was getting to that.
Okay, great. Please continue.
Sexy haircut.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, I need to get a haircut. I forget how it comes up, and she's like, I'll give you a haircut.
Sure.
And she says, where's the scissors? And he says, it's in the desk. To which I thought, like, you mean desk scissors? Like office scissors? Like, you're so rich, and she's using like the scissors that you use to like cut paper with.
Yeah. I'm guessing that normally he gets chloroformed and wakes up with a haircut because that keeps him interested in that process. You know?
Absolutely.
Because why do we need a sensuous haircut? Like, is this an ASMR video now? Like, what are we doing?
They're just looking for opportunities to have a sex scene, I guess. But they're setting
it
up
wasn't
something
a sex
very
scene.
important. The reason it wasn't. Well, the reason he's like in my desk and she gets his office scissors is because this is the only way the writers could think to how does she find the gun? Because she finds the gun, and she's like, why do you have a gun? And he was like, oh, that's that sub's gun. I took it away from her. I immediately was like, oh, Anna's going to use that gun in this movie. It's going to happen.
Well, of course. I mean, Chekhov's gun, right? Duh. But, like, I was kind of perplexed by her being upset by this gun. Like, it's like, of course this guy has a gun. Why would she be upset about that? You know?
I think, again, she seems surprised by every new thing, no matter how unsurprising it is. She was surprised that he had a private plane.
Right.
And so The gun, it's like, no shit, he has a gun. Of course he has a gun somewhere in here. Look at him.
He's hiring...
Look at his whole thing.
Right. He's hiring security guards because he wants to be James Bond so bad.
Right.
You know? And
but it's not even his gun.
No, well, that's the thing. He kept Leela's gun, and she's not that upset about that, which to me, that's the upsetting part of this.
So I actually kind of got that because I think the idea is he pocketed it because he was like, I didn't want the cops to know she had a gun. Right?
Sure,
is that the idea?
But you throw it in the fucking river after that, man.
Right. And he does it, to his credit, he says, I'll get rid of it. He doesn't. But he says it.
Right, it's clearly a sex memento. You know? Like this guy's going to turn into
the best sex memento.
It really is. He's going to turn into Jackie or maybe that's not the name. The brother, the O'Priel brother from Sopranos season 2, who's just like having sex with her with a gun to her head. Like that's coming in 3 years, you know?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Richie April, I think. Yeah,
I thought that was going to happen in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. I also was surprised it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. At this point, I also noticed a disturbing lack of Apple products in this movie. But you know, it is what it is.
I mean, she's got a very old laptop at this point that needs replacing, and he's neglecting her. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her laptop is like weeks old. It's a fossil.
He treats laptops like they're loaves of bread.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, she doesn't.
Like they go
she
stale.
throws out laptops every time she uses one. She uses it once and throws it out, and no one's told her otherwise.
God, I want that to be true. I deeply want that to be true. Look, so can I just? This is a macro comment, I think, at this point in the movie. So the problem is they don't have any problems. Like they have no problems. Yeah, even if Jack is a problem, and okay, fine, he's out there somewhere. In their relationship, there are no problems. Like they're basically just navigating a regular marriage to some degree.
Right, and I would argue there's a little of that in the Twilight movies when we get to a certain point where they're just like buying her a house.
Right,
and it's again, it's the same situation where it reminds me of when Harry Potter becomes a wizard, where it's this character getting this world open up to them, right? And it's like, oh, we're going to get you an owl. We got to get you a wand. We got to do this. But they have like a choice of what they want to get, right? Except Hagrid buys him the owl. But you get the point, where it's like he's getting introduced to this world he doesn't understand. In both Twilight and this, the world is just being married. And they don't give her nearly as much control as they did like at Harry Potter. It's supposed to be this like magical world opening up to her, where people are like, yeah, here's your house, here's this. But it's like those are things that you normally get to choose in life. But none of that.
Yeah, I mean, and she doesn't seem to be upset about that either. Like,
no,
she never draws the conclusion about like, hey, Christian, why are you trying to control me? Like, they never have that conversation, which seems like the kind of thing they should, based on what's happening. Right. Instead, she sort of takes every little thing issue by issue and sort of like, hey, we can just communicate it. It's fine. It's like, well, I like that she's reasonable, but this is one of those times where, hey, but don't you see the pattern? Can't we address that at least? So there's some conflict in this movie? Nope. Can't do it.
No. And the most she does for herself happens next, which is Christian getting going to New York or whatever. So she goes out with a friend.
Right. Big problem.
What's her name?
Yeah. Kate, right?
Kate. Yeah. And they go out and they have a couple of drinks. And they have fun. She talks about how hot the bodyguard is again. It reminds me of the first movie where they kept reminding us that Christian was hot by having women go, he's so hot. They do that to Sawyer.
Yes.
Throughout this.
That's right. They do.
And I thought like, oh, is she going to have a thing with Sawyer or something? Are they doing this for a reason? They aren't. They aren't doing it for any reason.
I mean, I kind of settled into this is going to be less purposeful than Twilight by this time in this movie.
Of course.
So like I stopped looking for those kinds of things. Sawyer, like I was kind of hoping he would just get gunned down in the streets by Jack. Like I was hoping
another problem because again they keep setting him up as like, here, look at this human.
Right, exactly.
Look at him. Something's bound to happen with Sawyer, right?
Right. It's these are all things that would be cut out of a normal movie. Like this movie almost feels like it's assembled from deleted scenes from a different, more interesting movie.
Yes.
You know, like maybe a movie about Kim Basinger's relationship with Christian Grey, right? That could have been a whole movie, and everything else in it would have been this stuff, you know?
And she doesn't matter either.
No, she's completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant.
So many things that are paid off that you don't expect to be paid off, and so many other things aren't.
Yeah, the Aspen house, big payoff.
Yeah, it's like a murder mystery where they give you all these elements, and like you have to like guess what's gonna matter, but except it's not a mystery. It's like it's not anything.
And the answer is none.
Yeah,
none of it matters.
She goes out with drinks. We know they're drunk because when they walk out, they're having a. I wrote this down because it felt like they told the actress, like, you guys, you're like finishing up a story and you guys are having fun. And the way she did that by saying, you know me, I hate jellyfish is the story she's telling. And it was like, okay, well, I want a movie just about whatever her story was.
Right. At least a sitcom. Like at least a sitcom episode could have done wonders there.
Right. She's so nervous about this drink with a friend.
I mean, right. It's a big deal. Before this happens, is that the scene where Jerry walks in? Jerry from like the head of the publishing company, like where he walks in and praises her for great job by thinking of the internet.
Oh, right. Yeah. I forget when that happens.
I think that's a great scene. I think it happens beforehand. That poor actor really tried hard to believe this. and it was, I just like, it's one of those moments like, man, as an actor, can you imagine trying to like, okay, I gotta be Jerry and like believe that he thinks it's good that she thought of the internet, you know?
Yep.
It's unreal.
Way to go. Anyway. Thinking to tap the internet for publishing. Good job, Anna.
A thing that if you haven't been doing for 20 years, you are every bit as desperate as Jack.
We also need to shout out to Liz, who... Have we met Liz in the previous films?
Is Liz the HR? Wait, I mean, do you mean Hannah? Is Hannah
Liz?
Which one's Liz? I don't remember.
That is... So, spoilers, Liz is the one that Jack is blackmailing.
Yeah, the HR lady. Yes, we did. We met her in the previous movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't... When they reveal her, I was like, I don't know who that is. I had to like go back and like look and go, oh, right, that woman who was in a couple of scenes.
By the way, she actually is a pretty good actor in this movie because when she welcomes Anna back from vacation and tells her she got promoted, she puts the subtlest little gloss of shade on those words that is kind of a foreshadowing of what's going to happen. Yeah. But you're not totally sure. Like, did she mean to be that shady about that?
Right, because this movie is chaos. So it's like, who knows what's intentional and what's just fucking randomness.
Right. But in hindsight, her performance is actually pretty layered. And I kind of appreciated that about her.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, yeah.
Jesus Christ. So this is where she fucking gets kidnapped. She goes home and Jack is there. And he has the worst kidnapping attempt ever. He grabs her and like she has bodyguards. So guess what? They detain him. They're like, "Do you have anything to tie him up with?" And she's like, "I sure do."
Right. And it's unreal.
Yeah, it's the only time the sex stuff. She should have at the climax of this movie should have been her saving the day with sex stuff. That's like. We needed some way to pay off the sex stuff.
But I mean, I think they did that by her being at the door of the room at the end, right?
Yeah.
They think they did that. They didn't.
No.
So
I want her to whip Jack to death or something.
Yeah.
To vibrate him. To
to plug him. Put some of those balls. Put some of those balls in his butt. You know. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah,
he screams, "You owe me a life," which is foreshadowing. And that when he said that, it was like, fucking wait a second.
Wait, I thought he put that on a paper. Didn't he put that on a piece of paper?
Oh, maybe he put it on a piece of paper. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I this is where I started to like fade. My interest started to wane, despite trying to be a professional. Because I was like, well, this is so dumb. What is going? Why is he here now? What?
Exactly. Yeah. He's just a random obstacle. They have again. It feels like they couldn't go back and edit anything. Even though, by the way, this movie and the one before were shot back to back, so you could change
Jack's
origin. Yeah.
Oh,
they shot him like the fucking. They shot him like the Pirates of the Caribbeans. They were like, we're gonna shoot these as one. So like you could, because that's the thing. Jack's motivation feels like it was retconned, right? Mm-hmm. It feels like but they shot them back to back. So like they could have planted the appropriate seeds. They could have had Jack not be her boss, because that doesn't make any sense. They could have made the helicopter crash seem more suspicious. He could have said back then in that film, I think it was sabotage. They could have done all that, but they didn't.
Yeah, he was a poorly managed character in every way.
Yes.
Like his performance also doesn't make sense. Like he turns into this like mustache twirling rapist maniac in a way that's like
so unhinged.
Why? Why is he this? Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Again, the only conclusion is that he was always this, and he was pretending not to be this before.
I mean, yeah.
It's mask way off, where suddenly he's just like, I am Jack.
Right.
Like, it's so weird.
It's really weird. This is the part where I wrote down, he's turned from successful publisher into low-grade stalker / murderer, and has apparently never read Crime and Punishment.
Right. In days.
Because, like, doesn't he know how the story ends? Like, what does he think's going to happen?
Right.
Yeah, anyway. It's just horrible.
He snapped. He snapped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meanwhile, Anna, she's fine.
Yeah, she's totally unaffected.
Completely unaffected by it all.
Right. Not even a little alarmed about the terrible performance by all of her staff. Like, Sawyer's awful. And Jonesy was there the whole time, by the way. Yeah. Jonesy was there and didn't do shit. So what's going on there? You know?
Yeah. She just goes to bed. She has a good night's sleep. She wakes up refreshed. We see it. Yeah. We see her in bed in her pajamas. So she got got ready for bed after that and just had a nice sleep. And Christian is just getting morning drunk. Christian's handling it like she should be handling.
That's correct. She should have been handling it like that. He should have to do something. Like if this was like real on its face. But again, I choose to believe, and I really believe it makes more sense, Christian is terrified of having a boring night with her because he thinks the spell will wear off.
Absolutely.
I really believe that. So can I also say...
He's getting bourbon drunk, by the way.
Yeah, he's really hammered.
No Bloody Mary or anything. He's drinking bourbon at like 7 a.m. while watching her sleep.
That's correct. Also, key element, she tells the detective who's at her house after this whole thing happens that Jack was her boss a few weeks ago. That's where we find out that time is a fucking flat circle in this story.
Yeah.
You know?
And Jack has, again, it's the only answer is Jack planned this in advance, because otherwise, dude had a rough few weeks. Dude's life.
Right.
He fell hard.
Like it's like
he's like Cricket from Always Sunny. Like he's just he is a mess when we check in with Jack.
He stopped taking his meds or something. Like it's like that. Yeah. It's that level. Like he had antipsychotic meds or something, and like he went way off the rails.
Again, he is the Riddler. All of a sudden, he is Sex Joker. We learn about his dark origins, and it's just like, what the fuck is happening?
Completely bananas.
Yep. She wants to have sex in the shower. Again, she's fine. She's fine.
Right.
She's like, I was almost kidnapped last night. Let's fuck in the shower. He asks her, and she says, I'm fine.
Well, he says a really funny line. He goes like, it must have been terrifying. Are you sure you want to work?
Right. And she's like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. Are you sure you want to work? Are you sure you don't want to just be a housewife or what?
Exactly. It was such a wow, nice play, bro.
Yep. Yeah. It's weird because, again, this movie keeps doing this where it feels like it keeps trying to justify how controlling Christian is, while at the same time showing that she can actually handle it, that he's not. And I don't know if it's a positive message or not. It's like in the last one, they did this where she... with the Jack stuff. And it's like, are you sure you want to work? You should stay at home. It's dangerous. But she gets a promotion. And this one, it's like, you need to stay home. You need to listen to what I say. You need to do everything I want. And then she gets kidnapped. And it seems like the movie's saying, see what happens when you defy him? But then in the end, she comes out on top.
Well,
and
he also he dispenses with every time there's tension like that, it gets dispensed with by the sex scene. The sex scene sort of wipes the conflict clear every time. That's the problem with it.
Except for the next one, this is their first sex fight.
Oh, that's right.
They have a sex fight.
Yeah, they do.
He punishes her for, I don't know, getting kidnapped. They go to the red room. He gets out a fancy rich guy vibrator and he blue balls the shit out of her for sex revenge. He says, This is what it feels like when you defy me, because she went out with her friend. Mind you, again, can't stress enough, her going out with her friend didn't get her almost kidnapped.
Nope.
That didn't do a thing.
Totally irrelevant to what just happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she uses the safe word because not because it's too intense, but because he's being a shit. He's blue balling her as revenge.
Which is to say, like, she has absolutely no bandwidth for emotional pain at all. Like, like this is like a thing that would be annoying, maybe a little hurtful, I think, in the malaise of all the stuff that's happened to her.
Right.
And she has no tolerance for emotional pain at all.
She literally, she's like, I've been kidnapped. Like, I've been in a car chase, but what I simply cannot handle is you teasing me sexually.
Yeah, exactly. This is when I wrote down, these two are such fucking snowflakes.
Fucking nanny state snowflakes.
They really are. It's like, this is why that term exists for these two assholes.
Precious little snowflakes. It's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. He tells her in their fight, he says, I had a dream you were dead, which I don't care if you've had that dream or not. You just don't tell someone that.
I mean, exactly.
But whatever.
Right. He doesn't seem to think it's an option not to say stuff. You know what I mean? Right. Like, he could always, like, why doesn't he lie about it being Leela's gun, for instance? You know what I mean? Right. Just lie, bro. Like,
no, honestly, I think that's what she wanted to hear, frankly, because I think she was more disturbed by the idea that he had a gun he purchased. Like, he fell into a gun is what he's like, no, I didn't get a gun. That's just the gun from, remember that lady who tried to shoot us? It's from that. It's from that.
Right. He could have easily justified in a satisfactory way. I just thought we might need protection. Our security is fucking dumb fucks.
Yeah.
So, like, I need a last resort here. Is that cool? Right. And she might have been like, yeah, actually, that is cool. We do have a murderer after us. It kind of makes some sense,
Yeah.
I'm the only one that has any detecting skills in the whole city, so I can see how you might need a weapon. I get that.
The police are useless.
They really are.
And so they're like, okay, so Jack's in jail. So that's good. Jack is in...
Which, to me, at this point, was a mind-blowing decision. It was like, my God, they put him in jail already? What is the rest of the movie going to be about?
Right.
We
learn.
Sure. We learn, I guess. It just seemed really like, why are we dispensing with this guy? So
here's my argument. And it might be, for this movie, it's like, what does it fucking matter at this point?
Agreed.
But I think what they wanted them to feel safe so they could, for the next scenes to happen. And I would argue that Jack could get away and they could say, okay, we need to leave the city, so let's get away. But that's not what happens. Jack goes to jail, and then Christian is like, Aspen trip.
So wait a minute. Don't they imply that Jack was actually hired by somebody, or that he's being funded or something?
They don't imply much of anything.
Don't they?
Do they?
I thought
is
they
Mrs.
said
Robinson
that.
secret fund? All that's happening now is he says, oh, by the way, I have a file on Jack. And he doesn't want to show her because I think it shows that, like, I'm not sure because he discovers this later. I thought Christian knew that Jack knew him as kids because I had here like, oh my God, is he his secret brother?
Right.
What happened here?
Right. Exactly.
And Christian seems to not want to tell her much, but then later Christian is just as surprised as her to learn this, that they grew up in the same orphanage.
He certainly seems to piece it together. We've pieced it together long before, right?
Because he's saying you owe me a life, and he's clearly like after Christian, and so it's like, okay, there's more to this,
right? And he's taking pictures of their family. It's like, okay, like these are pretty hefty, like pretty obvious clues. They point one way,
right?
You know, we've also seen Batman. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. So they go to Aspen because, like you said, they have to pay off.
They have to pay that off. Yeah.
They have to pay off the ski lodge.
Yes, they
do. And he surprises her by bringing her friends, which was a good move. But also, it occurred to me of like, she should be able to do this anytime.
Agreed.
Right? Like, Christian doesn't need to do this for her. She's rich now. She is Mrs. Gray.
Why isn't she just using the cabin for a weekend? This is what rich people actually do, by the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go away to this place that we own for the weekend. Here's with 8 friends. Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't make any sense. This is where Jose really, really shines, though. Can we just say Jose is invited? That's a surprise. Number 2, he's picked up Mia, the Christian sister. Like they've started dating off screen. I'm like, Jose, look at you, buddy.
Yeah,
finding happiness. I like it.
Yeah, it feels very much that they didn't know what to do with Jose. They had set him up a bunch. It's very Twilight where everybody like pairs off, and it's like, see, everybody has somebody. Where it's like musical chairs, where Jose and the sister are like, I guess it's us because everybody else is together. Elliot and what's her name, and Kate. So it was just like, yeah, Jose and me, I guess. Sure, we're all one big fucking family, apparently.
Right, because they can't. Being friends is not emotionally cathartic enough. They have to be related for them to really live happily ever after.
Yeah, Jose, he also needs a sex prize of some sort.
Of course,
here you go.
Right, yeah. Mia is another character. Could have been literally anything. Mia could have been.
She could have been a golden retriever. Yeah.
I felt bad because out of all the characters in this movie, she gets shortchanged the absolute most.
Yeah, she does.
Like in a way that's like, come on.
She doesn't have a great time.
Come on. And especially like when you think back and you're like, oh, we spend a lot of time talking about Kate and Elliot's relationship, a relationship we don't give a shit about. Why are we talking about this? You know?
Right. But all right, so they set spoilers, Mia gets kidnapped in this movie.
Unbelievable.
And you'd think the person who would get kidnapped is the person who's going to get married, who we spend a lot of time on their relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so weird. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because they're in Aspen, baby, and they're going to have ice cream sex. Now, first she has a dream that takes place in like a chapel or a dance hall where like Jack is there. She wakes up. Christian goes downstairs, and they start rubbing ice cream on each other, and it's disgusting.
It's disgusting, but also not disgusting enough. Like, yes. I think they needed to go really far, and also somebody needed to walk in. Like, that you know what I mean?
You think they're setting that up.
Right.
This movie is filled with shit where you're like, surely that's what you're setting up. They're making too much noise. So you think, oh, someone's going to walk in, it's going to be a cute little moment.
Yeah.
Nope.
Exactly.
She rubs ice cream on his hairy fucking nipple and is just like, oh, gross. Like, it's just like warm dairy, like just on their skin, and they're taking turns. And it's just like, this is, and they're on the table that everybody's going to eat off of in the morning.
It's like mint chip and sweat is what that tastes like. You know, you're like, nah, I don't, I'm not in that. I'm not into this at all.
Right. And so they don't get much sleep. Yeah. It's really gross.
It's really gross. Also, I forgot to say this, but it really does matter. The reason that they take this trip is because they really needed a break from the 2 days of work that they've been working so hard. They needed a break.
You're right. She just got back to work.
And I wrote down, like, she probably gets promoted at the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah. No. So the idea is Liz is blackmailed, but I would have accepted Liz being like, I'm doing this because fuck you. Because you came in for 2 days.
Absolutely.
And then you left for another week. And I'm doing all your work for you.
Right. I'm the only reason that you look qualified to do anything.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that would have been fun. Yeah. That would have been a fun arc, you know? Absolutely.
Anything would have been good.
Yeah, anything would have been a fun arc. So, can you explain to me what the actual trouble was between Elliot and Gia? You know what I mean? Like, can you explain that to me?
So the reveal is that, so she thinks Gia is cheating, or Elliot is cheating on Kate with Gia. And then what we learn is that Gia was helping Elliot choose the ring. That's as far as I know.
Okay, so that's where I got a little confused about it because I don't understand what Gia's job is.
Architect. They call her the architect.
So why is she helping him pick out rings?
He's you know how when you're rich you just have an architect that you just have access to, and they're always like hanging out with your friends and like helping out with other things.
I mean, yeah,
she's an
I guess.
architect, but she'll also like do other stuff.
Right. It's like having a nuclear research sscientist to feed you dinner in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
Just sure, okay. Why not?
She's
I don't want to lift a
architect.
fork. Just put it in my mouth.
It's fucking, I don't know, man.
Made no sense. Anyway, go ahead.
So they spent.
Just to point out for the savvy listener here, like the only reason it had to be her is because the movie has dubbed her a tramp, right? Like that's why.
For
right?
just being a little flirty, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a judgmental decision by the writer and filmmakers. It's like, wow,
absolutely,
really? Okay. Anyway, I just had to say that.
So they have a night of ice cream sex, and then they get up good and early for a day of hiking, gown shopping, and clubbing. In that order. They get up, they immediately go hiking.
Right. And that's enough of a day, by the way. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a pudgy guy. I'm saying that because, like, who wants to go do all these strenuous activities in one day?
Yeah,
like,
they do a few. They note that it's going to be like Elliot is leading them on this really long hike. So it's got to be like 3 or 4 hours, right?
Right.
And then it cuts to them gown shopping. And it was like, did you shower between these two activities? Did you just say, hey, you know what? We're so rich. Let's go sweat a bunch and then try on some fancy outfits.
Right. Like, absolutely. Like, we'll just, like, whatever we want to put on, they'll just, like, let us do it. 100%. Right. By the way, this is how conflict-free the movie is at this point. I thought them being tired was going to be a plot point. Like, I was like, oh, they're going to be tired. Oh, something's going to happen.
Get lost in the woods or something.
Yeah.
No.
Nope.
They just go, again, in the gown scene, meaningless. And finally, they go to the club where Elliot proposes, and it was like, okay, let me get this straight. You went for a beautiful hike in the woods, and you're like, you know when's the best time of day to propose? A noisy nightclub in the evening.
Well, it definitely had
when he chose it.
It had the vibe of, like, I better marry her real quick or things are going to get out of control. You know what I mean? Like, like trying to save the relationship by proposing, a thing that keeps happening in this story, by the way.
But they literally find this like beautiful view when they're hiking. And it's like, if there was ever a moment to propose, wouldn't it be this?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
No, he proposes. They have a good time at the nightclub. They go home, and the Aspen trip is over and meaningless.
Completely meaningless. I do want to say the most interesting thing that's happening in any of these movies is happening off screen right now, and that is Jason is investigating Hyde. Like, Jason, the head of their security, a somewhat interesting character, is like looking into Hyde, and like that would have been an interesting movie, you know? Like,
there's so many interesting movies that there could have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're following the NPCs. We're following the most boring fucking characters.
We really are. And like, we've run out of their dialogue options. So instead we're just watching the same cutscene over and over.
They go home, she eye rolls, so he's like, you're going to get punished for that.
Right.
And we get a sexy cover of I Feel Good. Two butt plugs?
Yeah, fine. I think I might have taken a bathroom break during this scene. It's
That's
possible.
Fair.
Yeah, I was not into it.
Yeah, I would get a snack during the sex scenes because I knew they'd run about 5 minutes and nothing would happen in them.
Yeah.
So
you knew it was a good gamble. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing. Forgive me, Dave. So so Christian punches a guy in the dance club, like a guy who like literally just shows up to be punched by Christian, and like that's funny on its own. But the second thing that's funny about it is they make out and they get so hot after he just like hits a random guy. And I'm like, oh yeah, yep. That guy was also on the payroll.
People.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They're the worst people.
Yeah, that guy,
you're right. Is he probably paid that guy to take a dive?
100%. He looked like a wrestler already. He just got jobbed. That's what happened. Anyway, please continue.
So we learn that Jack is up for bail.
Oh my God, dude.
Yep. Anna goes to the court hearing where the judge is like, I think you're a bad person and it's going to hurt other people. Anyway, I'm setting your bail.
Enjoy freedom again.
Yeah.
Don't you crime, young man.
Yeah. He sets the bail. She goes to the bathroom to puke.
Right.
And
right.
I had a little micro thing here is they show her puke, and normally you cut. They run into the bathroom, she pukes, cut. They stay with her. She gets out of the bathroom and goes and like washes her hair and slightly wipes her mouth. Then they cut as if they wanted us to see that she doesn't wash out her mouth and is disgusting. Because I was like, that's disgusting. Anna.
Yeah, that was disgusting. Also, what she was wearing to the bail hearing would have been like it was the movie idea of like she's trying to be inconspicuous. It was the most ridiculous outfit you've ever seen. She's wearing a black hoodie with gigantic sunglasses and her hair sticking out the way that it does. And it's like everyone would be looking at you. Like that's the first thing that would have happened. We'd all look at you. Yeah, just awful.
So I thought she was puking because of the first sign of trauma, like the idea of like, oh, so she actually is affected by Jack. Thank God, because I was thinking she was a fucking robot.
Right.
But it turns out no.
Yeah.
It's because she's pregnant.
Oh, yes, it's because she's pregnant, but the movie has the audacity to introduce this doctor plot as though we'd been waiting for the doctor appointment. You know what I mean? Like the doctor's like, it's been a few weeks, and she's like, I'm sorry. And it's like, wait, were we supposed to be tracking this?
Right. They don't show her puke any other time. She's perfectly fine.
Right. And she calls, she's been calling Anna around the clock, she says. So the question is, what was the doctor's appointment supposed to be for? Because it isn't
I don't know, man.
Well, the reason I ask is because then she does the ultrasound, and I'm like, what kind of fucking doctor is she? Because like there was no pregnancy emergency when they didn't know. So like, is this woman like some kind of Trump doctor? Like, what is going on?
Was like, I have morning sickness or whatever, and I don't know, man. I don't know. That's the best I can do.
Your ultrasound technician doesn't also have office appointments with you. You know, I know that from being moderately aware of doctors, you know?
Yeah.
Just really crazy.
It's a fever dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all a fever dream.
Absolutely.
So she tells Christian she's preggo, and he's pissed. And he's pissed specifically because he thinks he's fighting for attention already.
Yep.
I don't know if he says it now or later. He's like that. He's jealous of his own baby.
Yep.
And it's like, boy, you suck.
Yeah, you're really, really terrible, and I don't sympathize with you at all.
Yep. And he goes out and gets drunk.
He gets drunk and goes immediately to Sex Joker. Well, okay, so just so that's not confusing, Elena, who's played by Kim Basinger, who we predicted would be the Sex Joker. We were wrong about that.
Who's not actually in this film, and I think that's why she's not Sex Joker.
Yeah.
Is I think maybe she didn't want to come back.
I mean, she's in one scene.
Is
maybe she's in one scene. Yeah, she's in the scene where we discover her ex-husband has been funding Jack Hyde. Spoilers.
Oh, okay.
You know, a plot point that was like, oh, okay. I guess I kind of understand what the mechanics of this were, because Jack Hyde is has some military tech available to him to be accomplishing this.
He has henchmen.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has henchmen in this.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's funded. This guy, again, this guy's like fucking the big boss from Metal Gear Solid. Like, he's got money behind him. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into it. So, she gets mad because he went immediately to his ex, to his old dom, and she should be pissed because he's like a weird big baby. He's like, you're gonna give the baby more attention than me. I'm gonna go talk to my previous fucking ex-girlfriend. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Christian. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She very correctly says later, she's like, of course the baby's more important than you.
Right.
Of course. It should be more important than me to you, you idiot. Like, we're adults, you asshole. Like, I give her credit for that.
I do too.
She goes...
She should have been furious with him about this.
Yeah, this should end the relationship,
Absolutely.
much like many moments.
Absolutely. This would be like close to a divorce immediately, because like this woman's toxic and doesn't approve of the marriage and is aggressive and you also have this mysterious history we never actually learn about,
Right.
So, yeah.
Until the prequel series comes out.
Oh, I have an idea for what could come next from this, Dave.
Okay.
Don't.
Okay,
I just
we'll
want
talk
you to know.
about it.
Yeah.
She locks herself in his sex bat cave and sleeps there.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out what that was supposed to mean. Like,
I don't know. She's
I
just
miss
pissed.
you.
You know what it meant to me? It meant to me that they don't have 2 bedrooms or anywhere else to sleep. She was just like, I'm going to sleep on the couch because I'm mad at you. Shit, we don't have any couches. We just have a bunch of office furniture and weird like banana lights and orbs. So we just have weird. It's like a spaceship in here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go to the one other comfortable room that we have, which is the sex room.
This penthouse.
Sleep there.
This penthouse is a glorified 2-bedroom. Like,
yeah,
it's
a terrible apartment. It's worse than my current apartment. Yeah,
they have a dungeon and a bedroom and that gigantic kitchen foyer area, and that's all there is.
They live like lab subjects.
Yep.
Like there's nothing welcoming about where they live.
No.
It's awful.
No. It's it does feel like a laboratory. It feels like something at the end of a Resident Evil for sure.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. Also, just quick question: Anna has literally nobody to talk to, right? Like there is nobody she
Kate,
can talk
but
to.
It doesn't seem that. Yeah.
I mean, but they only talk. They're the kind of friends who talk once in a while, and like for sure won't be friends in 5 years.
Oh yeah. I mean, Kate left her to get taken at a nightclub by Christian in the first movie. So like Kate clearly doesn't give that much of a shit about Anna. I feel like they're friends, but if she learned that Anna was found dead, she would not be as upset as she should be.
Yeah. Or maybe even upset at all. I mean, is that too harsh to say?
Maybe. It's the situation where Anna might be like, Kate, you're my best friend. And Kate's thinking like, oh no, you're like a college friend. That's it.
Yeah.
Like you're an associate.
Like I would fit you in once a quarter, and that would be feel like a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We finally see where Kate works, which is in Seattle, the magazine. And like overall, I just have bad news for both of these characters in terms of the publishing industry. But it's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
I
think the seaside mansion will be some consolation for poor Anna, and frankly, Kate's going to be rich too, right? Like, so they're fine.
No, it's great. It's very smart of them to marry the people they married. We see Anna at work being the boss, and again, it's very funny because it's just clear that whoever wrote this didn't know what that would be. So she says, "Great meeting, and remember, make that font size bigger." It's like, way to be the boss.
Yeah. By the way, they had like 1 or 2 good scenes in this movie. One of them was the one where she gets dressed in the morning after he went to see Elena. That was like that. That argument was a good scene. It was like, oh, okay, there's some substance to this. Too bad it's the end of that arc, but it was a good scene. Yeah. This, by the way, at work, right? If I remember this correctly. Because this is where it got a little fuzzy for me. At work is where she gets the phone call from Jack, right?
I was about to say, this is where everything changes.
Yeah, everything changes. Go ahead.
Jack calls her and he's like, I got out. And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, he's already... Like, my first thought was, he's going to get in trouble. He's calling, and then he's like, and I kidnapped Mia. And it's like, oh, shit. So Jack is full-on supervillain. He kidnaps Christian's sister. And he's like, get me $5 million in cash in 2 hours or I'm going to fucking kill her.
Right.
And it's like, holy shit.
Like, dude, you are now abjectly throwing your life away. There is nothing. Yeah. You have no life after this, no matter what happens.
It's different than anything up to this point because right now he's following them. He's stalking. He's trying to kidnap her. He's her scorned ex-boss that was she got fired. And it's like, all that makes sense. In terms of him as a villain, he still went from fucking 0 to 60, obviously. This is when you realize he's a Batman villain. He's a mustache twirler. Suddenly he wants $5 million in cash, and he's kidnapped her sister, and it's become a completely different film.
I mean, also, can we just say, like, this orphan trope is already a pretty shitty trope if you, like, spend 3 seconds thinking about it.
Right.
It's a kind of a shitty trope in general that we do to people who've had a tragedy in their life. This is one of the worst offenses of that idea ever.
Absolutely.
Because it's literally leaning only on that. The problem is I was an orphan.
Yep.
Right? Like,
yeah, I was an orphan, and why did you get rich? And I also seem okay? Like, that's the other thing.
Right.
He's like, why does everybody have everything? And it's like, you were the boss of a publishing company.
You went to Princeton.
You were making like 6 figures. Yeah, you went to Princeton. You could afford Princeton. How are you different? You're not
a billionaire.
Working,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so?
Again, it really feels like it really feels like they didn't know that they could edit the scripts.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
It's so baffling what Jack is now.
Yes.
And it's like
he has what I'm going to call the Elden Ring problem.
Okay.
Which is, there's a lot of, maybe any From Software game problem, which is he's only a villain because the protagonist needs something to do. He doesn't have a previous existence that can be coherently followed or a reason to be doing anything he's doing. You know, it's sort of like when you're.
It's the equivalent of like bullies in movies where they're like, check out the dweeb. And it's like, well, who the fuck are you?
Right.
You don't exist. You've never existed.
No.
But Jack is even worse than that because he's constantly, what he wants is chaos. It's in like it really is like I feel like if he got the $5 million, he'd set it on fire and he'd be like, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. Like it's just like Jack is an impossible character.
Give me a ride in that towed plane and then leave me. I'm gonna fly away. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. I hate that plane.
Jack's his motivations and his background changes from scene to scene.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
I'm just going to point out he feels like an actor. And again, Christian hiring him is the most likely thing, particularly
that is honestly, the most likely
because the way that she shoots him is also like it's like she was playing laser tag or something. You know what I mean? It's like the way it all plays out is very like, you don't want to shoot me, do you, young protagonist? Ha! You'd never have the stomach to do it. Like she's at a stage show and she's being encouraged to do it or something.
Yes,
it's really
ridiculous.
bad. It's really bad. Yeah,
it's like the third act of a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he's at a boathouse now. He's kidnapped her and brought her to like a boathouse that looks like it's like a 90s. Like, again, 90s third act location.
Yeah, it does. It also kind of looks like there's only one road to get there, which is not the best place to have your getaway happen.
Right. So he's fucking kidnapped her like a villain.
He's kidnapped Mia, a character we decided is completely disposable from this point on.
Yeah.
You know?
He wants $5 million.
Right.
Which, again, I feel like he has that kind of money already. It's like Dr. Evil. Like, it's such a small amount of money for kidnapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe he thought because it had to be cash, that's about the amount of money she could carry or something.
I don't know.
Maybe that's what.
And this is, he has henchmen. He's yelling about his birthright. And that's when it was like, oh my God. Was he? This is all the questions. Was he just happened to be her boss? Was that a coincidence?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
Also,
she goes to the bank.
Can I just briefly? So like the movie bothers to have him call her from Mia's phone, and then like does he smash it or he throws it away or something so that it can't?
Throws it in the water.
Throws it in the water so it can't be traced, and then he just calls her from his phone like 3 minutes later, and it's like, wait, what?
What is happening? What is any of this?
Did he just forget how crimes go? I don't get it.
I don't know. He's terrible at kidnapping. We learned this. This is unbelievable shit.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is the same film series.
It definitely feels like we just pivoted hard into a different story.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So she has to go to the bank. All right. Here's the other thing, though. Like the one way it's totally like the rest of the movie is that there's no real obstacles in anything that happens. Everything goes smoothly. She goes to the bank to get $5 million. She kind of shits all over this bank manager. She borrows his phone so she can have it thrown into a puddle. So she gets the $5 million. Christian realizes something's wrong. At first he's like, "Are you leaving me?" Because they had that fight. And she's like very clearly can't speak about it. And so he's like, "Okay, give me the bank manager." And he says, "Give her whatever she wants." And he's immediately like, "Okay, Anna's clearly in trouble." And so that's when like the henchmen grab her. And that's when the reveal where she's like, "Liz." And I wrote, "Wait, who's Liz?" And so I had to go back and figure that out.
I thought, oh, okay, that's a fun payoff.
Yeah.
You know, it was there. Like she has, like Jack and her have a weird exchange in movie 2 that I noticed, but then didn't make a comment about because we passed by it. So it's all there. You know, it makes sense. It's like the only thing in this whole franchise that was actually considered and then meaningfully planted and paid off. Yeah. I also just want to stress that bank manager, he must know. She's like, "I need $5 million in cash. Can I use your back door and borrow your phone?" He must be like, "This is a hostage thing, isn't it?" Yeah.
Like he should call the cops.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, Christian traces her phone. She goes to the 80s Boathouse.
Because she is actually the smartest criminal mind in this franchise. Like she's I mean, she's not always good at it, but she is the most capable person at crime, espionage, and detective work that exists in this city and the surrounding Washington area.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. She's the most competent. That's the whole thing, is she proves to be the most competent human in a world of idiots.
Right.
And that's why she's like, she's a dom all of a sudden at the end. So Jack just kicks the crap out of her.
Yeah. Yeah. He really does.
It's like he's going straight for the baby.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's the most intense scene of the movie. Liz is like, "Wait, you're going to kill her? I didn't agree to this." And then that's when Anna pulls out the gun and just shoots Jack, and that's it. It's over. Everything's fine.
It's
really,
the way
really
it's
easy.
done. The way it's done feels like it could have been a scene in Napoleon Dynamite or something. Like it's so like that's it.
Yeah.
And like it's just so lazily
and then she just
done.
Blam, shoots him in the leg.
Right.
And it's like, again, it's like, man, wouldn't it have been cool if she like got away and they were like, she was like underwater trying to they actually gave a shit and made it like an action sequence.
Take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes and do a thriller for 5 minutes. Have a good time.
Right.
You know, why not?
Yeah. But much like the helicopter scene, it's, oh my God, Mia's been kidnapped. Probably roughly 10 minutes later, Jack is on the ground like, you shot me. And like the actual moment in which she shows up to confront Jack takes, what do you think? 30 seconds? 40 seconds?
Yeah, that's about right. It's pretty short.
She shows up. He starts kicking the crap out of her. She takes out a gun and shoots his ass. And then it's over. Mia's fine. The cops are there.
They didn't frisk her. You know, like they didn't do basic criminal stuff like, hey, does she have a weapon? You know, is she recording
when she gets
this?
in the car, they're like, give me your phone.
Right.
It's like, shouldn't you just frisk her right there and then?
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
Like at least confiscate any butt plugs. With this woman, that's totally possible.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Yep. So Jack goes to jail.
Right. By the way, Mia disappears from the movie after this. Like,
she's
the woman
fine. Everybody, they're fine. Everybody's fine.
Right. But like, I think it's fair to say, no, she's not. You know what I mean? Like, this is a life-changing trauma for her.
She's fine.
Totally disposed of. Yep. Anyway.
Yep. Anna wakes up in the hospital. And she's fine.
In what they're calling a hospital, it's like set on like a platform above the woods in some mystery location. I was like,
because again, they're all actors.
Right.
Christian hired them.
Right. It's like, that doesn't look like a hospital at all. Also, why didn't they have hospital sex? Big blown opportunity there. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it should have happened. Yeah.
They should have fucked on Jack's body.
Yeah.
There's so many places they should have fucked.
Yeah.
Again, at this point, I have completely forgotten this movie was supposed to be about sex, because now it's about something completely different. She wakes up, no trauma. She's fine. She's like, "Is the baby okay?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then they just start talking about their relationship.
Right. Of course they do.
At no point are they like. At no point is she's like, "Man, it's pretty fucking crazy what happened, huh? I'm really shaken up." No, they're fine. Everybody's fine.
Well,
he says as an aside, he's like, "By the way, he blackmailed Liz," and it's like, "Oh," and he's like, "By the way, yeah, we were. He's the Riddler. By the way, we're, we hung out at we were foster kids together or whatever. We hung out at the orphanage," and it's like, "Oh, neat." Anyway, they don't care. They don't care about anything.
No, they don't. I wrote down at this point, this scene with Anna and Christian explaining the foster care system is a perfect summary of what's wrong with the series. They don't underline key discoveries. They whitewash interesting emotional or moral dilemmas, and they settle for easy romance or sexuality as a distraction from real drama. They're just not interested in the things that make movies good.
Yeah, no, they're not. Because it's this moment, like I said, this is the closest they get, is where he literally is like, "Hey, look at this picture. Look at me. That's him and that's me. Oh, we were in the same foster home." And then Christian has one moment where he says, like, "He's no different than me. We were both orphans. I could have," so I think the thing they were trying to do and failing miserably is the idea in the first movie where Anna realizes that Christian is punishing her and cruel, right?
Yeah.
And they explore it in the second movie where he's like, "By the way, you look like my mom, and I want to punish you and all women who look like her." And then this is supposed to be his realization of it's the realization of like, maybe I'm not so different from this guy. Maybe my privilege made me able to direct my anger to this weird kinky shit. And if I was this guy, the problem is everything we talked about. Jack is also privileged. If they had made him like live in a shitty apartment and have a shitty job, and that idea of like, without your money, you would be where I am, that would have worked, but they don't do that. The fact that Jack was just her ex-boss and it's really confusing as to what Jack's motivation is also ruins that, right?
It completely ruins it.
Yeah, he's not, again, he hasn't, it's unclear if he's been planning this whole time. It's unclear when he knew that Christian and him went through the same foster care system. It's completely unclear.
It's impossible. It's not even that it's unclear. Yes. It's that it's impossible.
Well, it's either a phenomenal coincidence or he was. But you're right. And Jack is impossible in general. That character.
Jack is only possible if Christian is paying him to be. Yes. There. Also, I think the thing that's sort of come into focus for me as we've been talking is Christian is the actual protagonist in this story.
Yes, he has the actual.
He changes. Yes, he's the only one that changes, and that is a bummer because it's not. Because it undermines. First of all, it undermines the BDSM aspects of this story. It actually undermines them.
Yeah.
Which is a huge problem. And second of all, it's sexist. And third of all, it's like, well, look, if he's going to be the hero of the story, let's watch it from his point of view. You know what I mean?
Well, you could argue that this is the Back to the Future situation where George McFly is the protagonist of that movie in that he has the strongest arc.
Right.
To the point that his life is fundamentally changed. Marty is technically the main character, right? And Marty's arc is way less extreme.
But he has
one.
But he has one.
What?
But he does
he has one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's mainly in the first movie. He barely has an arc. If you watch that first movie, they give him a full arc with the series. The point being that I think Anastasia is kind of the Marty, where it's like her arc is subtle. She is the main character, but she is. You could argue she is not the protagonist. Yep. And there are good movies that do that. For example, Back to the Future.
Right.
But it is not good here. And so, that's what it is her arc is you're topping from the bottom. She learns to get control over her own life with Christian by the end, but it's such a small, subtle arc that's very incremental and doesn't really feel visible because she's never.
But it also.
She's always pointing it out. Like she's always like, "This is bullshit" from the first movie. So I don't know.
She is mature enough that she always understands their problems in context. Yeah. Like, so that's a problem, is that she's mature enough that she's able to contextualize and not overreact to their problems, which eliminates the drama. And the second thing is, yes, she has an arc, but the arc is she becomes a worse person. You know what I mean? Like, sure, she exerts some control over this relationship, but in doing so becomes less grounded in reality, less compassionate toward her fellow human beings, and less available to her friends, her family, like people who care about her, and completely at the whims of this man. No matter, like, playing a role for him, sure, but never really. Not branching out and becoming and growing. She's not growing, you know?
You could argue she's a sociopath and the real villain. You could argue that, not the real villain, I guess, but if you thought of it as like, if you added like narration where you realize that from the start, Anna sees a rich fucked up guy who she has great sex with and is like, okay, well, I just got to get him in good shape. Like, I'm going to marry him, get all his stuff. And he's a little fucked up, but like, whatever, man. Like that, like, if that was her motivation of like, I want this guy's money. Yeah, he's a mess, but you know, and then everything that's thrown her way, she's just like, I'm fine. I don't even give a shit. Like, she's like a weird sociopath. And she's like slowly showing her true colors or something. If they did something where like Christian turned out to be this guy who's fallen apart and she turns out to be a fucking, the real sex joker of it all, that would have been interesting. They don't do that because it's not well written. There's nothing to her.
Well,
is what it comes down to.
I mean, she kind of grows into a Martin Shkreli type person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh no, that's not. They sort of both become a Martin Shkreli.
But yeah, she has no arc. Christian completes his arc by visiting his dead mother's grave, his birth mother.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Look, yeah, sure is the word for it.
Yeah.
And then the movie has the audacity. Yeah,
I loved this. Yeah, go ahead.
To end on a montage.
I wrote down a montage at the end, ! Why do we want or need this?
They're treating this like it's Lord of the fucking Rings, where they're like, look how far we've come. Look it. They show her falling in his office again. They show all the little, the moments there. They show moments where I was like, oh, was that supposed to be a romantic moment? Because they're treating it like one. Moments that I have completely forgotten because they thought that we were so invested in this story that the tears would be rolling down our eyes as they show us a flashback sequence of everything leading up to this moment.
Dave, their world has been saved, but not for us.
Yeah. The fucking audacity.
It really is. It's so tone deaf and like it's such a self-indulgent thing ultimately because it's the filmmakers that feel that way. You know,
right.
And maybe when I say the filmmakers, I think I just mean the writer. You know, I think that's who feels that way about it because for her it was like she is Anastasia Steele, right? Like she is a person who found her way into like fortune and a life that she didn't expect,
right.
Or in some ways, just she got catapulted to the top of the financial food chain, and you know,
right.
That's a cool journey, I bet.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
She's rich.
Yeah, you know, okay.
But they fucking take this victory lap.
Yeah, they do.
It's like a band getting booed off the stage and then coming back for an encore.
Well, it should have been a sex scene, right? Why wasn't it a sex scene?
That's it ends with a sex scene. It ends with her calling him into the red room. That's when he says, "You're topping from the bottom, Mrs. Gray," which I think might be the last line. I don't know, because then they do credits and then they show their ugly kid, Ted, that they had.
That's right,
They cut to them playing with their shitty kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, Teddy. And it's like, oh, man.
Yeah. But it should have been an actual sex scene.
Jack? What if they named the kid Jack?
That would have been perfect.
Amazing. Or
perfect.
Jose.
Yeah, Jose. Oh, perfect. And made Jose babysit him or something.
You're right.
Good.
It should have been a sex scene, maybe intercut with other memories or something.
Sure. Maybe just just Anna working at the hardware store.
Right. Yes.
And Christian
back to the hardware store.
Doing business somewhere.
It angered me so much because it was like, what is this? The fucking end of 6 Feet Under?
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are right now? Who do you fucking think you are? Do you think you touched our hearts?
Yeah. You're no David and Keith. What the fuck, man?
Yeah. This is fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Your rage is feeding me right now, bro. It really is. I'm really enjoying it. Here are the unresolved plot lines from this trilogy. I wrote them down.
Okay, good.
Are you ready for this? The first one is Elena and Christian. What happened there? Why did it matter? What was the nature of the relationship? No idea. Number two.
Who's Elena?
Yeah, Elena's Kim Basinger's character.
Right. Okay.
No idea. Also, by the way, I didn't write this down, but Elena's relationship with her husband is also a thing that mattered in this movie because he was bankrolling Jack. And then his company gets bought out as he gets investigated for fraud because of Jack. And it's like, oh, so there was a whole corporate espionage thing going on here that would have, there was a Succession story going on in the background that would have been more interesting. So there's that. Mia's trauma and Jose's journey to bring her back to some state of peace, normalcy. You know what I mean? Like, just that's a movie.
Because Mia is a victim of this. She did not come out of this okay.
No. Gia's flirtations in general are, I think, unresolved. Like, what was the deal with Elliot? And what happens,
Also, why is Gia?
Like,
she's not in the other films. They're just like, here's Gia. She's a character now. And it's like, is she, though? Is she?
Yeah. We could have used a real Black Widow spinoff film for her. You know what I mean? Like, she could have used her own Hawkeye, sort of
the sex
film.
ventures of Gia.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of sex ventures, Sawyer and Mrs. Jones's thing, that was unresolved.
Right.
What's the deal with Anna's mom and dad and her family life in general?
I think they're dead. I think they must be dead at this point. Christian had them killed.
Yeah, he has. I think it's possible many people are dead off screen here.
No, it's the Twilight thing where it's like her mom and her dad at a certain point. It's like, oh, they don't matter. They're barely humans.
Right. Of course. I mean, of course, that's what is actually happening. But it's weird. Also, Christian's said he would go to therapy, or clearly needs to go to therapy because that's the heart and soul of this franchise. Not resolved.
Right.
And finally, would you ever feel any peace if you were Anna and if you didn't know for sure Jack was dead?
Right.
Jack needs to be dead.
She says, is what's with Jack? And he's like, he'll live. Right. And it's like, that's a shame because he tried to kidnap and kill me.
I forgot. There is one more thing, and that thing is the contract. The contract never gets resolved.
The contract didn't matter.
No.
And I would argue overall, the theme of this series didn't matter.
Yeah.
The sex. Like, imagine if Twilight, by the third movie, had nothing to do with vampires and werewolves. That's what this is.
Right.
Like, because the whole premise of the first movie was, I'm dating this man who's into some really fucked up kinky shit. And we're going to have a sex contract. And you imagine that's going to be the running thread. But by the second film, it is not an issue anymore. And so at that point, those sex scenes aren't... Like, in the first movie, the sex scenes were the moments of drama,
Yeah,
right?
there was emotional content there. It was emotional.
Yeah, and there was conflict.
Yeah.
There was conflict because
Right.
it was like, is she up to this stuff?
Yeah.
And I assumed that from that first movie that the next movies were going to be these increasingly larger bids from Christian of like, I want to try this next. I want to do this. And it was going to be almost like a Fight Club situation where it keeps escalating and Christian is the main antagonist in that regard.
It kind of seemed like in some ways this movie needed to be about her finding out what are her actual sexual boundaries.
Exactly.
Right?
You think this is going to be a 3-movie-long sexual exploration of Anna.
Right.
But it is dropped by the first movie.
Yes, it is.
And the subsequent movies just become a lukewarm thriller.
Not even lukewarm. Like a very poor thriller. Like worse than
that middle movie is
worse than a case of the week on Murder, She Wrote. Like just really bad. Here are a list of more interesting protagonists than Anna that I wrote down.
Okay.
Mia, I think would like just her story is interesting. Gia.
Yeah. Gia.
Jose.
Sex Ventures. Jose.
Also, Elena, Kim Basinger's character. She would have been more interesting.
Absolutely.
Sawyer.
Absolutely. Sawyer the bodyguard.
Jack Hyde. I think he could have been an interesting protagonist.
Yeah, he sucked. But
Yeah. That French kid with the rock. What was going on with that kid that just walked up and gave Christian a rock?
What?
That kid was interesting.
What French kid with a rock?
There's a French kid right up top that just walks up to Christian and hands him a rock because he's just
in
kind
this
of
film?
Yeah. He's just kind of a nice kid. It's when they're on honeymoon and his dad comes and scoops him up and I'm like, what's the deal with that kid? I kind of wanted to see that.
Yeah, you're right.
And finally Mrs. Jones. I just think she had a lot of life in her. You know? She was an interesting
is Mrs. Jones the housekeeper?
Yeah, the housekeeper, yeah.
Yeah, who disappears from this film,
yeah,
right?
She was interesting. Could have followed her around.
Yeah.
Maybe Liz.
Oh, yeah,
maybe
anybody
Liz
that isn't just like a rich jerk.
Yeah. Maybe Liz the chauffeur, or not the chauffeur, the Liz the HR lady.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has a way more dramatic fucking journey in this.
Yeah.
There are so many characters, but these two rich fucking wads that would have been more interesting. Absolutely.
Well, and I understand that we have a problem with wealth inequality in this country, and it's a very serious one. I don't think that necessarily a rich character means they're boring, but in this case,
Batman.
In this case, it absolutely did because it eliminated every problem. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's the thing is I'm a rich man. So like Batman, it's like I'm a rich guy. I'm kind of boring. I'm just like rich socialite. But secretly, I dress up like a bat and I fight criminals. And it's like I see the appeal there. American Psycho. It's like I'm a rich snob, but I'm secretly like losing my mind and fantasizing about killing women, etc. And this, it's like I'm a rich snob, but I have a secret. I'm also into slightly kinky sex, and it's like I don't care.
Yeah.
That doesn't make him interesting. And then he's like, but look, I purchased a room just for kinky sex. And it's like, yeah, you're rich. Like there's nothing.
Well, that's the problem, right?
And then Anna is like, well, I'm just like a simple country folk. And it's like, actually, she's not. She's like, before she meets Christian, she's in a comfortable place. It's that thing of they have no, like you're saying, they have no struggles. There's nothing wrong.
Well, and the problem
except Christian is kind of a fucking dick, and it's like I don't care about his psychological problems because they're not exceptional in terms of
they're
movies.
Not exceptional.
You know what I mean?
I agree. They're not movie worthy. They're the kind of thing that's like maybe on TV, like if you made him fun and you just called his name, like called him Barney, you know what I mean? He might be more interesting.
Did you see Hillbilly Elegy?
No, I did not.
It's not a good movie.
Okay.
And that was my main issue with that movie is it's JD, what's his name? JD Vance, who's now a politician.
Yep.
It's his life story. And when this came out, we didn't know who JD Vance was. Now that we know who he is, we definitely don't need his life story. But it came out as like growing up in Appalachia. Here's my life story. And what you notice watching it is that it's not an interesting life story. It's literally like, yeah, I went to Harvard and I had to work as a dishwasher. And it's like, yeah, I worked as a dishwasher too. And he's like, yeah, things were hard when I was a kid. And he shows him getting like slightly bullied. And it was just like, yeah, we all got bullied, man. Like it's that idea of like someone thinking their life is really noteworthy. And then when they tell it to you, you're like, oh, no, that's everyone.
Yeah.
You're describing everybody's life.
You just don't know that because you have so much money that you're fooled into thinking you're significant. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what this is, where it's like, it's not that what they're going through isn't hard or unusual. It's just you're making a movie.
Right.
We're making a movie.
Right. Tell an exceptional story. I also think that one of the cynical aspects of this movie that's really pretty inexcusable is that the sex stuff is actually not the point. It's his wealth that's the point. His wealth is the actual kink here.
From the start, from those sequences, again, those quote unquote the moments where the music swells and it's supposed to show how in love she is, or
it's
how she's
always a
falling
rich
for him.
thing. Always
a rich thing.
Yeah.
She is enamored with his wealth.
Yeah.
That's it. She doesn't. That's what I'm saying, is that she could be an actual sociopath who just wanted money, and like it's a better story. It's honestly like, if this started with her being like, I just want to bag a rich guy, she runs into him, and the challenge is, I want his money, but he's fucked up in the head, so I'm going to have to work with this.
Yeah.
But that's not it. We're supposed to believe she loves him, and that's a problem, because he is boring, and he is at no point in this series does he do anything that's worthy of that.
Absolutely. He's completely boring, and in that way, actually, if they had intended this, I'd be applauding them. He's kind of a great commentary on the vacancy of wealth, right? Like, he's sort of inadvertently satirical in a way that I kind of like.
Yeah.
But of course, they're not actually saying this. I just think it's an accidental observation, right?
Exactly. It's Succession obviously does it better. It's the idea that when you have all the money in the world, you actually become quite bored.
Right.
And quite depressed.
Right. And that's not a new idea, by the way. That's a real old idea.
No, not at all.
But, it's nice to see it rendered meaningfully somewhere, especially these days. But that does lead us to, I think, the movie that would actually fulfill this premise. Are you ready? Because I don't think they made the movie that would actually fulfill this premise. But I'll tell you what.
What is that movie?
That movie is their divorce proceedings. If we made 50 Shades Divorce, and it's literally them coming to an agreement about the settlement agreement, which is part of what divorcing is.
The contract.
Yes.
More contract.
But it's like the real contract, because now we're splitting up assets, right? And now it gets a little vicious, and there's actual punishment motives, and there's actual mind games, Yep.
They're like that famous picture of the couple splitting up their Beanie Babies. It could be that, but butt plugs.
Yeah, getting a real... Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a funny version, and you're right, that would be funny. But, like, for real, you could make a thriller between these two characters 10 years from now, right? Where things didn't work out, and now they're actually playing each other for divorces, and they're using sexuality as a weapon, which I would say they kind of both do.
Right. They could keep fucking during the divorce proceedings.
They would do that.
Yeah.
And it would be manipulative the way that it usually is deployed in this movie, and it would all be over line items in their settlement agreement, and I'm telling you, that could be interesting.
That could be very interesting.
Right?
Because that is the promise that... So, kidnapping, the helicopter crash, all that shit, take it all out. If they had made 3 movies about the contract, it legit would have been more interesting.
100%.
And that's that. If it was like a legal drama coupled with them fucking all the time, that would be great.
Right, and then so I know
you could do that. So what you do is, this first movie, you do the contract, right?
Of course.
The second movie, you do like
the prenup.
Some other negotiate.
The prenup.
I guess I was gonna save that for the third, but yeah, you do the prenup, and then the third movie
they get
divorce.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you wait
every
10
time,
years. Yeah.
Yep. And every time it's a courtroom drama. With the lawyers could be fun characters, they could be interesting. You could do legitimately courtroom drama scenes, and all the while they're fucking in the courthouse bathroom.
Right.
That would be so good.
And I think, again, that movie kind of structures itself, right? Like, things are bad in the first act, and like they've fallen out of love, and so they decide to get a divorce, and the decision to get a divorce actually reignites things, because they always needed antagonism to get hot. Like, that was always a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They suddenly realize that they need to be each other's enemy for this to work.
Right. It was never about...
Sex Joker and Sex Batman. Yeah.
Because it was never about actual kink and role playing stuff. It was never about that. It was always about power plays, and that's where the real heat happens in a relationship for people like this, is when they split.
The movie goes really wrong when it starts trying to make it about love. It should have been about sex 100%. And power.
Yes.
Yeah.
It never understood what love is.
Yeah, I believe there's a much better movie called Secretary that I'm sure people think about all the time when these movies come out.
Sure.
And that's the thing, is that This is just, it's the Disney-fied version of that. It's they had to bring love into it because I think that's who the writer is. And that's, it's the Twilight issue, which is like the person who's writing it couldn't actually conceive of what the interesting stuff is there, what the drama is. It had to be this like very storybook version.
I mean, I don't know, because I think if you're making fan fiction of Twilight, you already are not interested in like real drama.
Yeah.
Like you're interested, I think, more in like the melodrama of it. Like
for sure.
And I mean the soap opera structure of it. That's what this is. It's soap operatic. Like if you're interested in real drama, they should have real issues. Like
right.
Yeah. I think that would be, like there would be periods of time in any movie about this where they couldn't really get kinky with each other because it would be painful emotionally, because that's the substance of it. But they never did any of that, They
never did anything.
Yeah.
It's a big wet fart. It feels like there was at no point did it feel like they had any idea where the story was actually heading or what it meant, what any of this was supposed to mean, who the characters were, it's just, we wanted to make something with sex in it that was kinky.
Yeah, at least Twilight had 2/3 of an arc figured out. Like I didn't agree with it, but they knew that this is the story of a young woman getting swept up in World of Vampires and then sort of being in the middle of a love triangle between the werewolves and the vampires, and eventually she ends up married with and living with the vampire. Now, they didn't know how to end that story, but okay, they got that far.
They had a journey.
Yeah. This had no journey because there was never a relationship of substance here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
You know what really baffles me?
Oh, please. I can't wait.
So, sex movie comes out. Everybody rushes to see it.
Right.
Sex sequel comes out.
Right.
You'd think by this movie, people would have realized, oh, there's no actual sex in these. Why is this making so much money at this point? I don't know, because it's not for the sex anymore. And if it's for the drama, that just really bums me out, because it's bad.
Well, I mean,
it's not for the story. There's no cliffhangers. Again, I get Twilight because it's like, well, there's a story here.
Well, we were
is it a good one? No.
We were saying the same thing about Twilight, to be fair. It made $100 million in the United States and Canada and $270 around the world.
It didn't make that much. That's not that much, but you'd think still, like, yeah, we were saying about the Twilight, but boy, has my bar been lowered since then.
Right.
Because it's just like, there's no redeeming qualities by that. That second film, it's like, how was there a third? I guess just because they made them both back to back.
I mean, yeah, but I think it was clearly a money play.
Christ.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The only reason it's ever crossed my mind to watch this, aside from the fact that it's funny for you and I to do that, is for the sex scenes, right? Like that's the only reason I think anybody would watch this, and that's another reason why I'm not sure why there's a third movie. Because it's like, what are we watching this for?
The sex scenes don't matter. By the way, audiences hated this.
Oh,
it has a low critical and audience score. It's just like, I guess for the amount of money it made, it's not Avatar. It was people being like, fuck it, I'll go see this piece of shit. Like that must have been it. It must have been people ironically seeing it at that point. I mean, because I don't know, man.
I would have sometimes I kind of wish that, and I know Hollywood would never do this, if they would have a survey that included, why did you see this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I really feel like that would be interesting material here, because like, I mean, I think there's a lot of bad TV out there that people just watch because it's something to do with their time.
Right.
You know, or because it's like, look, you know, we'll do an hour and 40 minutes and like we'll go to dinner, we'll watch this movie, we'll come home and we'll have sex. That's the night we're going to have, right? It's like a date movie.
Right.
And
teenagers getting together watching something. There's a lot of movies, horror movies, there's a lot of mediocre movies that exist for people who aren't like us in the sense that they don't give a shit. They're just going out to see a movie, and then they go out and they see the movie and they go, oh, that was kind of fun, or they go, oh, that was really stupid. And then they go home and they fuck or they do drugs and they have a great time. And it's just it's a social thing. It's we're gonna go do this thing plus dinner. What's playing? Oh, let's grab this. Let's go see this. That's definitely what this is, right?
See, these movies are almost always packaged as erotic thrillers. See, like, thrillers allow for people to feel like this is a legitimate movie. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is, like, so the movies that I think this is a part of the heritage for is, like, you know, Basic Instinct, right? Or Dangerously, like...
Right, but those are better.
Those are way better. See, the problem is that's, I think, what people think this movie would be. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, here's the thing is everything we just said is valid, except this is the third of a series. So I still don't. I know why someone might go on a date and go, "Oh, let's go see 50 Shades of Grey," or like pop it on at home. What I don't understand is seeing all three, unless. Did everybody seeing this have a podcast about it? That's the only explanation. Because it's just I don't know why someone would stick with this. Because it's like, okay, maybe you want the sex. Well, there's no sex. The sex is boring. You can't masturbate to these films. So okay, do you like the plot? There's no plot. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. And I know that it's the easy answer is like, oh, you know, it's like old ladies or teens who just want something like, I don't know. In this day and age, though, it's like, I don't know. The internet exists. Just watch some pornography.
Yeah, right. That's what doesn't make sense to me is that pornography feels like it would eviscerate the reason for this movie to exist.
I think what it comes down to is that fandom has never been stronger because of the internet.
Sure.
And so, like, that's what it comes down to, is that you can find a subreddit on Reddit for anything, right? And it'll have, like, 50,000, 100,000 people. And it's because you're able to collect all those people from everywhere in the world. So I think that's what it comes down to, is that there's enough fans out there spread out that they consider these good and worthy of watching.
And also can get a movie like this greenlit when it wouldn't have been greenlit before.
Yeah.
Like, and also so. maybe the audience that liked Twilight was also like sort of enjoyed the narrative of this story and watched it for that reason.
Right. Did this go in a way where, like, the people who liked Twilight grew up and then could watch this?
I mean, like, I think so. I think. I mean, they came out later, I'm pretty sure.
Because Twilight is less of a mystery to me because it's aimed at teens, and teens will watch just about anything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
But this is like, well, if you're a teen, you can't watch it. So, like, who's it for?
I don't know. I will say that, okay, so I've thought about this. So, actually, this is sort of, I think the closest precursor to what this is 9.5 weeks. Because
you're going to say 9/11?
No.
And that would have delighted.
No, 9.5 weeks is an erotic romantic drama, right? It's about their relationship, and it's this short ephemeral thing, right? Which already makes it more interesting. So 9.5 weeks came out in 1984. No, it didn't get. It was made in 84. It was released in 86. They edited it for release in the United States, and it bombed in the box office. But they released an unedited version that made a bunch of money. Right? That made like $100 million. And of course, it's made untold millions in DVD and video sales, right? That's where it really made its money, I'm sure. So I think, like, maybe the producers or creators of this film understand that, like, if you make it, like, I think there might be an algorithm component to this. Where it's like,
yeah, I mean, there certainly is. I just looked up 9.5 weeks, and it says people also search for 50 Shades of Grey.
Right, exactly.
No, I think you were circling it, with the sexy thriller stuff. It's just, this is bad. Well, it's a bad sexy thriller. If people, they should go watch the one where Ben Affleck kills all those himbos. Deep Water.
I didn't watch that.
That's a sexy thriller. Go watch that. That's the movie this needs to be. You know what I mean?
Basic Instinct.
The problem,
that's a great film.
The problem with this film is, like, considering that it's R-rated, I don't know. It felt like it was, like, for tweens at the same time? Does that make sense? Where it's like, okay, obviously it's not for teenagers because there's boobs in it, but the way it was presented, the music, the plot, it all feels so juvenile. While being supposedly for adults. It feels like it was written by a child.
Yeah, it feels like somebody who doesn't have a fully developed sense of story or palette for what a good story feels like.
Yeah, it feels like what a child would imagine an adult relationship would be.
Well, it's like, what if you made a movie that starred Bad Baby? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, you know, or yeah, a lot of the joints that were taking advantage of Lindsay Lohan or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it's that kind of sensibility where it's exploiting a phenomenon. Nobody gave it like a shit except for maybe the writer about what it was. And, you know, unfortunately the writer was proven right in terms of box office. So nobody ever learned from it. Right.
No, nobody learned anything.
Yeah,
it's sadness.
It was
in the world.
It was no consequences like everything in this movie. It was also no consequences for the people who made it. Did you know there's a parody of these films?
Probably. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but
there's a Marlon Wayans parody called 50 Shades of Black that came out in 2016.
Oh yeah, he was cranking those out.
Yeah.
Speaking of 9.5 weeks, Christian should have been played by Mickey Rourke. Then we would have had a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Old ass Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, from The Wrestler. He's still doing the Ram Jam. You know?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, he's just like, what have you done to your face now, man?
Yeah.
What if he was just 80? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, instead of being 30 and handsome.
It wouldn't have been much different if he was just like on death's door and she was clearly into his money. Like that would have been slightly more interesting.
Well, interesting.
Get
and
Michael
also,
Douglas in there.
But how thrilling would it have been if it was like an Anna Nicole Smith situation where it's like you get such an old person that you don't want to watch the sex scenes and they keep doing them. You know what I mean? They keep showing them.
Insist upon doing them. That
you
ice
have
cream
to watch
scene
it.
with an 80-year-old just slobbering that ice cream off of her.
Yeah.
Started licking it off of his old ass nipple.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a movie. You know what I mean? Actually, that would be an incredible parody. Like if they had made a parody and it was just instead of him being 30, he's 80 and it's the same story. Like, man,
amazing.
That's an amazing parody. Holy shit, right?
Yeah. Do you know that this had an IMAX release?
Well, sure. I mean, you get it, right? It's like, how big can we make these boobs? You know, like how...
Yeah, it's very funny, though.
You know?
Because this movie looks like garbage.
Well, it's beautifully shot in terms of lighting and composition. It's just boring.
Sure.
It's just bland and boring. It has no... Yeah, it's not...
That's fair.
There's
fair.
It's not made for story reasons. So, like, the look isn't story-driven, so it feels bland.
Right. It's not Top Gun. Like, it's just, there's nothing there.
Right.
To see on the big screen.
It's 100% not Top Gun.
No, if you were expecting Top Gun, I'm sorry to say, you're not going to get Top Gun.
I mean, can I just say, every love scene in Top Gun is way sexier than anything in these movies. Right?
Yeah. Right? Every plane scene is sexier than what's in this movie.
I think that volleyball scene is peak sexiness compared to this.
Objectively way sexier than... Yeah. That's the thing about this movie is that it's one thing to go to a movie that it's like, it's not for me, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this movie and I'm like, I don't know who it's for. Because I expected it to, at the very, like, I had my lowest expectations for this film was that it would have kinky sex scenes.
Right. I mean,
and by the end, it really doesn't.
Yes.
They fuck in a car, and it's like that's in every movie,
right?
Like, what is happening at this point?
Like, funny enough, the movie Titan, right, is much kinkier than this, right?
Yes,
like
that again. It's that thing where it's like, it's like a child imagining something, where it's like, oh, you don't even like. It's like when someone's like, oh, I'm a bit edgy in my humor, and then they tell like the tamest joke, and you're like, man. Like, you don't actually know what edgy is. It's that where they're like, buckle up. Things are going to get steamy and weird and kinky. And then it's the most vanilla fucking bullshit. And it's like, God, like the movie Titan would fucking make the writer of this fucking have a panic attack.
Absolutely. Just the dance scene with the firemen alone.
Yeah.
Is like, ooh,
just that alone.
There's heat there, baby.
There's heat.
100%. Yeah, I don't get it. I also think, like, as we were talking about before, like, I think this showed me that just because something's dumb doesn't mean it's fun to watch. You know what I mean? Like, and doesn't mean it has, like, irony appeal, which is a thing that you and I are really interested in.
That's what's happening with Morbius. That's what they didn't realize about Morbius. Is they're like, oh, it's so bad, it's good. Let's re-release it. And then everybody's like, oh, no, you don't understand. It's really boring. It's just a really boring, bad movie.
Right. You know, like...
Yeah, and that's what this is.
This is... See, like, I think it takes a certain amount of talent to make a movie that's so bad it's good. Like, like you have to have a certain kind of, like, passion and also, like... a kind of a dumb confidence. Like, I'm going to do this.
I was about to say, you have to believe in the movie.
Yeah, you have to believe in it. Absolutely.
It can't be made cynically.
Right.
It has to be made. It's like you have to mean it. You have to mean it.
Right.
It doesn't work otherwise.
Because you have to care enough to do the emotional work. Even if your sense of emotion is batshit insane. You know?
Right. It's like, yeah. It's like when Neo has to kiss the Merovingian's girlfriend. What's her name? Who's way more famous than him, and I can't remember her fucking name.
Monica Bellucci.
Thank you, Monica Bellucci.
Yeah,
and he has to mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to. I like watching something like Basic Instinct, where it's like you realize that's the power of Verhoeven, right? That Verhoeven absolutely knows when he's making satire. He knows when something's funny, but he's really good at making you think. Like, does he actually know? You know, like that's what's so good about him is like he's very good at making you feel like you're not sure.
He's earnestly pulpy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a cackling
really
maniac.
Important.
He's a legitimately cackling maniac who believes 100% in his vision.
Right.
You know?
And it's really hard to do that because most of the time they're like, isn't this funny? And it's like, well, not anymore because you're in on the joke.
Right.
You know, like it's... Yeah.
I mean, I think
this, however, is neither of those things.
Right. It's not even the kind of thing Marlon Wayans would do, which is like, who gives a shit? We're just like here to make jokes. You know what I mean? Like at least Marlon Wayans or like somebody who does those kinds of movies, right? Those parodies understands who gives a shit. It's just for jokes. Like, you know, we're giving up entirely on the idea of the plot. It's just like tropes and jokes. That's it. This is. I don't know what drove this as a passion project. I don't get it.
Money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't think that's what made the writer write it. Is it?
I don't know. I never want to know. I never want to meet this writer because I feel like I'm going to get very sad. Like if it's one of two things. Either she was just horny and wrote fan fiction. And honestly, that's probably what happened. And then maybe it got really big and someone was like, I want to publish this. And she was like, absolutely. I like money. Right. You know, this is me doing the most, the best version of this person.
Right. Well,
I don't even know if it's a she, whoever they are.
It is.
I imagine
she.
It's that. And then it becomes a worldwide phenomenon. And she's like, wow, I can't believe that. That's so silly. And then they're like, we want to make movies of it. And she's like, sure. How much money can I make off of that? Give me power. The unfortunate other version is that this was like really, really kinky shit to her.
Yeah.
I mean, has she written anything else?
I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. I do know that it started to get popular before she finished it, because she said that, like she said in interviews and stuff, that she didn't plan the story out. She just sort of like it was this and then that, you know, like.
So she made one book called The Mister, and then she made 3 other books, which is 50 Shades of Grey as told by Christian, 50 Shades Darker as told by Christian, and 50 Shades Freed as told by Christian. And to me, that implies she likes money.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And you know what? Good for her. She's laughing all the way to the bank.
I mean, I guess, but so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, because it to me, it's like we're in the same zone as George R.R. Martin, where it's like they wrote something popular and then they just stopped caring about that. Yeah, and like they just stopped caring about the story and just was like, how can I cash in as much as possible? That's what that tells me.
Right.
And that's a bummer because, like, I don't know. It's not that I think that 50 Shades of Grey deserves a whole saga or whatever, but it's like I only want people to succeed in the arts when they are telling a story they love. Because there's so many stories to be told that are never going to get heard that are the products of love that I would like. You know, I don't want this to happen. I want, I don't know. Maybe it's just too idealistic.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Maybe it's just
Looking
too idealistic.
her up. So she is the most British person to ever exist, from what I can tell.
Sure.
She was born in Buckinghamshire. Her father was a BBC cameraman.
Oh,
That's
great.
how British she is.
Yeah.
So British.
She was educated at Piper's Corner School.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what happened was she made these books as a fan fiction to Twilight. And she discovered she published her novel as Kindle books under the pen name Snow Queen's Ice Dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. None of this is like a hit against her, to be honest. Again, it's just like, all right, I mean, it's their fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's not your fault. You wanted to write some fucking fan fiction, and then it became big, and so be it.
Described this as her midlife crisis writ large. All my fantasies in there, and that's it.
Right. And so her real fault is that she has boring fantasies. And so be it.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean is like, I feel like I guess she sounds kind of self-aware from what I'm reading. You know what I mean? And from that quote you just said, is it seems like she's as self-aware as anybody would be writing these. And there's nothing wrong with writing fan fiction. People do it all the time.
No, of course. Yeah.
It's how a lot of people get off, you know?
Yeah.
And so
that's fine. You know, like I'm not upset about fan fiction. Well, you know what? I'm not upset about anything other than I just think these were really bad.
These are bad.
Yeah.
No, that's what I mean is what I'm mad at, it's the system.
Right.
If we're looking for someone to blame, it's the president, it's the government. It's all of England. No, it's the fact that our studio system is so cynical and shitty that like they decided to make this, and they were right to. They made money. They put this out into the world. They wasted everybody's time, including ours.
There was a time
and
where
the people listening.
I mean, so the thing that drove Hollywood movies to be this cynical has always existed, right? Like there was a period of time in the late 90s or the early 90s or whatever where they were colorizing old films and like releasing them, and that was a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's always been there. It's just that like I think it would have. It's only recently that something this cynical would have occurred to somebody to make. You know what I mean? Like that's part of it too. There's kind of a degradation in that way.
Absolutely. There's also this mediocrity to it all, which is like, again, I have nothing against this author, but I don't think she made a particularly good thing. I don't think she made a particularly sexy thing. I think her fantasies were actually a lot more vanilla than she realized. And for one reason or another, a bunch of Twilight fans glommed onto it. I don't blame any of those people. I just think this was like it's not worthy of all this effort. That I think I get this about like, you know, the Jurassic Worlds, about certain movies that come out where it's not even that it's so bad or it offends me. It's so mediocre and pandering. That's what always bugs me. When something that's like really pandering and really mediocre succeeds, because that encourages studios to continue to do that, right?
I mean, yeah, and also I always want to trade in every mediocre movie for somebody's scrappy first-time production that might have been great, you know?
Or like a really spectacular train wreck.
Yeah,
like the movies of Neil Breen, I value in a lot of ways more than these movies.
Sure.
Because that fucking creep, that fucking Dracula man, clearly like is making these big swings. Are they good? Absolutely not. But this just feels like passionless, commercial, not even sexy, not even anything. Just like an assortment of things, hoping like dangling stuff in front of the audience to get them to pay attention.
Right.
Like, let's have a car chase. Does it mean anything? No. Like, none of it means anything. But it's enough for them to make $372 million, which isn't even a lot. It's just enough. You know?
It's enough to justify its existence. It's kind of one of those movies that's a little too big to fail, right? Like that's kind of what it is, right? That whole philosophy.
Yeah, and I think this happens with like modern times, the internet fandom, where it's like all we need is to trick you into buying a ticket. We don't care if you're going to buy the DVD later, if you're going to watch it ever again. We just need to trick you into getting in the theater with nostalgia or whatever, and then you get in, you sit down, and it doesn't matter if you like it. We don't care if you like it after that.
If ever there was a movie to revive the Blu-ray /rental market, this is it, right? This franchise has to be that, right?
Sure.
Like, I bet you they've made so much money in Blu-ray and DVD and rentals and stuff.
Really?
Oh, of course.
But why?
Because you know why people want to watch this, right?
Oh, you can pause it and jerk it. Yeah.
Come on. Like, that's got to be why people...
it's just so not sexy.
Well,
but you're right.
Of course, Dave. I mean, like, it doesn't do it for either of us.
Yeah. Listen, if you're like a big Dakota Johnson fan and you want to see her naked,
how could you
like
be?
If I was like a teenager, yeah, I can see why I would maybe perhaps rent this for,
Well, it's funny that you say that.
That's the thing.
It's funny that you say that. I don't think she'd made a movie before this, had she?
I don't know, man.
This is how she got fans. Right?
I bet she's in The Social Network.
Is she?
Yeah.
Who is she in that?
She was in 21 Jump Street. I'm just looking at it right now.
Okay, then I guess I was wrong. I just feel like I had never heard of her, and then suddenly...
Yeah, I hadn't either, but I'm bad with names and shit.
She had a supporting role. You're right. Okay, she was in Goats, 5-year engagement. Okay, so I was wrong. She received.
I mean, she's not like a superstar. This is probably what put her on the map.
Well, she's the daughter of Don Johnston, right? That's why, and Melanie Griffith. That's part of how.
Oh, good for her.
That's how she got into this.
Yeah. I don't know. Ultimately, I'm not mad at anybody who made this. It's just an unfortunate series of films.
Well, I just think look, if you're gonna put sexy in a thing and you don't care enough about the plot, right? If that's what it's gonna be, then do a thriller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like give us some cover. Give us some
Do
cover.
something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason why you get these B-list thrillers that go with these kinds of stories. Like, have you ever seen Body Heat?
Right. You add stuff like murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's the movie with Glenn Close and Michael Douglas that everybody? It's like the progenitor of that genre.
Not Basic Instinct.
No, that's it's
no, that's the other one.
It's not Dangerous Liaisons. It's
ooh, this is gonna kill me.
People are screaming at us right now.
Yeah.
It's
come on, do it,
man. I can't find it.
Do it for Dave.
I can't. Come on, brain. Come on, Fatal Attraction. Fatal Attraction.
Yeah. There, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, wow, really bad. So, those movies, they're all fine to good. You know what I mean? I'd say Basic Instinct is good. I'd also say Body Heat is good. And, they're thinly disguised, excuses to do sex scenes. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they are.
They're just better.
Yeah.
They're just better disguised.
Well, they know the material.
I guess this is what it is. And we talked about this in the first one. You're making a porno.
Right.
You just need to show sex, right?
Right.
You're making a sexy thriller. The idea of a sexy thriller, which especially in the 90s, was to do a few things. If Madonna's in it, then or if a high profile actress or actor is in it, then you're saying you're going to get to see their junk.
Right.
That's you're going to
That's what it is.
So you push that, but then you also want something to happen.
Well,
and so it's okay, what emotions should we invoke? Because we're making a sexy thriller. It should be dangerous. There should be danger. There should be drama. There should be murder. It's sex and murder, sex and horror.
Right.
And that's how you do it. And these first two, they tried to do like sex and love. Sexy, and they love each other. And it's like, that doesn't really work. You need something to fill in that void that isn't just a couple having conversations.
Right. It can't be thin, shallow relationship drama.
Right.
Like that's not thrilling. That's not interesting.
Yeah. The only thing that makes these couple different than anybody else is that they have money. Other than that, most of these scenes, it's like, I'm just watching a couple talk. That's boring. And so that's why, you traditionally add like those dangerous elements.
Or a time limit, right? A time limit where it's supposed to just be about sex and it turned into love and it shouldn't have, and now what do we do?
Right. It's the same with most love stories in general.
Right.
It's like you don't tend to just make a love story. You make fucking the lake house. You do something to it to make it more interesting because you're making a movie, damn it. And they thought that the fact that they were into somewhat kinky sex was it.
Well, the problem is,
they're wrong.
Again, they're wrong about it being entertaining. I mean, they're right about it making money, which, we've talked about exhaustively. But I just want to say, like, for the ashamed middle-aged man who had to watch these, and if you ever want to trick somebody like me in the theater, a thriller's nice cover. You know what I mean? Like a thriller really lubricates the whole process of like, it looks like there's going to be murders and sex
so you don't
or
look
whatever.
Like a weird perfect.
Yeah. Like, can you give us some cover? Can you give us a fig leaf on this, please?
Yeah.
Put
like dragons in it. Do something. Do something to make it.
HBO has carried this tradition on proudly. Where like they're putting erotic stories in every kind of context in the world, right? That's all they do.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
They've tricked us into thinking some of their stories are prestige when they're barely that.
That's what Game of Thrones is, just a really long porno. It turns out. It turns out the twist of Game of Thrones is we didn't think this through.
Yeah.
That's
right. We didn't really have it figured out. We didn't really have it covered. That's right. Hey, can I just say, if one of your friends became an author and did the whole first two initials and last name thing, would you confront them on it? Would you be like, "What are you doing?" Like, is that pretentious to you?
Okay, so
like E.L.
as
James,
someone whose pen name was David Christopher Bell.
Yeah, beautiful.
But it occurred to me that. So doing that as my pen name, one, made my email and everything very long.
Right.
It made people know exactly who I am. Had I gone with DC Bell, I would have felt like an asshole. You're right.
Right.
But it would have been so much shorter and easier. So I get that, but I also absolutely get what you're saying.
Which
is that it feels so pretentious.
It's horrible because it's such a dumb trope. Now, if you'd done D. Christopher B., like if you'd abbreviated the last name, are you sure, Dave? Because that's kind of a hero move, right? Like,
not for my name.
But it's like two little planets or little moons orbiting the planet of your middle name. I love that shit. Try it. D. Okay. Christopher B. That's your pen name.
Crispy.
And that's the name you go under when you write your erotic fiction.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled by that idea. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so another question, because, we haven't hit the 3-hour mark, so I feel like we've kind of done a shitty job here.
Yeah, man, yeah. And look, we actually knew this going in, is that we probably weren't going to...
We weren't going to top Guylight?
We're not going to top Guylight. Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
Guylight is our Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It just is.
And our joy has gone to the Grey Havens for sure, because this was the Hobbit.
This is our
for sure.
Hobbit, and then after this we'll have a King Kong of some sort.
Yeah, we'll have
and
to.
then we'll do a Beatles documentary or something. Yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna ask?
Eventually we're just like watching The Matrix or some bullshit. It's like, okay, you guys don't care anymore. Yeah, you're right. My question is, is there any property you would fan fiction for? Is there any property you would consider fan fictioning for, just for entertainment's sake?
Oh, for entertainment's sake.
Yeah, like I think that's what motivates a person to do fan fiction,
well,
right?
I've said a few times, and this is funny because I'm not a big fan of this series.
Yeah.
I would legit write a pod racing Star Wars movie.
Okay.
Legit.
I like that.
Because I think there's a plot there. I've gone through it several times where I think it would be like an underdog story about a pod racer, and they realize that the main villain, the person who they can't beat, has the Force. So it's about a regular person having to beat someone with the Force at pod racing.
Yeah, how do you do that?
I just think that would be an interesting film.
It could be.
I think the Star Wars universe in general needs more like low stakes films. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see like a teen hangout film that takes place in Coruscant.
I completely agree. Yes.
Yeah,
different
I think that
genres.
would be really interesting.
I want to see. I want to see different genres in that universe. I want to see a rom-com in that universe. Yeah, I totally agree.
That said, I'm not passionate enough about Star Wars.
Me neither.
So
Me neither.
Yeah.
I am not passionate about any particular franchise, but if I had to pick one, I would write the Eyes Wide Shut version of a Jack Ryan story. Like where he gets like sucked into this like sex dungeon underworld, to solve a global crisis. You know what I mean? Like he's wearing the mask because he needs to uncover the truth. You know what I mean?
So wait, are we talking about what sex fan fiction would we want to do? Because I have a different answer to that.
Yes, please. That's what I didn't say that, but now I am saying it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Star Trek: Tales of Risa. The planet Risa in Star Trek TNG is the sex planet. It's literally it's a planet that it's like their version of Vegas, but it's way more sex oriented than Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is a fuck planet where people approach you and they say, "Oh, do you want to fuck now?" And I think you do basically a 50 Shades of Grey situation with a lot of gadgets, but it's Star Trek sci-fi. So it's like holodeck fucking and like these gizmos that like make your blood come. You know, it's like this unbelievable sex stuff on Risa. Tales of Risa.
It feels like something that should be in a Rick and Morty episode, right? Like
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think there's erotic fan fiction to be found, speaking of Star Wars, between the Keeper of the Rancor and the Rancor. You know what I mean? Like, you remember that fucking guy from Return of the Jedi?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like he's just.
I don't know if is he fucking that thing? Is that what you're
Dave,
implying here?
Dave, it's fan fiction, Dave. You know what I mean? Don't limit me right at the outset. That man's tears were real. You know what I mean?
Yes, they were. I thought it was like a heartfelt pet story, you know, like a dog's purpose or whatever.
I'm sure that's what was intended, but fan fiction is rarely a good extension of the story, right? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like your heart needs to be open here, Dave. Open your heart, Dave. Open your heart for the Rancor. You know what I mean?
Right. It sounds like I have to open my dick for the Rancor.
I think you do.
Because I need a sexy Rancor story.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You know, you haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it.
Here's the thing.
I'm ready.
And this is why 50 Shades also fails.
Yeah.
Is that the best fan fiction, especially sexy fan fiction, have you noticed the pattern? Although your Jack Ryan thing actually breaks the pattern. But for the most part, the pattern is worlds that focused on world building.
Right.
Where it's like, it's Harry Potter, it's Star Trek, it's Star Wars. Twilight is not a world building situation.
It should have been
very
though.
much not that.
But it should have been. Yeah, it should have been.
But it's a very small world. And that's why this is already baffling where it's like, how is this even Twilight fan fiction? And I think you asked that first thing. It's like, what even was that?
Yeah, where did they start?
Where it's like
Edward
and Bella, and Edward's now her boss, and into kinky. It's just like, it didn't even start in a place that made sense to extend Twilight.
Well, it seems like it's based on one like almost crack style observation, which is the extraordinary implied wealth that Edward's family has.
Right.
But that's the thing the movies never really acknowledge. So maybe she saw that in this story and kind of went nuts with it, you know?
Yeah, but it's definitely something we have to note about this is that if I watched this and someone said, "Can you guess what fan fiction this started as?" I wouldn't be able to answer. And I certainly wouldn't say Twilight. And so, like, to, I guess, their credit, this doesn't ever feel like a ripoff of Twilight because it's nothing like Twilight except for that one dynamic of, like, kind of wealthy, predatory guy and a young woman.
You know what I would have said? You know what I would have said?
Nothing. What?
Beauty and the Beast. Like, Beauty and the Beast spawned this, you know?
I would have said Batman if I had seen all three.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. I want to make sure I say this because I forgot to say it when you were doing your thriller thing. I think the reason they pivoted to a thriller in the third movie is because they started to feel like, they started to feel why these movies are thrillers in the first place. You know, which is
it
like,
just feels like they didn't know what their movie was.
Well, I think that's why they so naturally go with thrillers, and I think the third movie is kind of proof of that. Which is like, thrillers are sort of a great plot engine to allow the sex to feel more passionate because there's danger.
Right. It's like they naturally realized they tried to do something different for the first one, and they couldn't figure out what they were trying to do. So ultimately, they were like, it's a thriller. It's sort of like when you're in screenwriting class and you try to do something different. Yeah. And then eventually you're like, okay, I see why there's a 3-act structure. Like it's that realization of like these are thrillers for a reason, and like is that limiting? Yes. Do they have to be thrillers? No. But if you're just trying to make money, you're not reinventing the wheel here. It's just like just make it a stupid thriller.
I agree, and like give us a fig leaf. So for real though, Beauty and the Beast, this is a natural fan fiction from that. Like
absolutely.
If you extended their relationship past the moment he became a human again, I
hate to get real Rule 34 on you though.
Okay,
is that if I was fanficking Beauty and the Beast as a sex story, you would use the creatures
like Mrs. Potts,
the candlestick.
Oh yeah, Lumiere's Potts. He's doing it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going right in there.
Yeah, Cogsworth.
Both of them.
Cogsworth is a freak behind closed doors, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're right. Is that the dynamic? This is very much Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
It's just that if you were actually doing that, you would have a lot more fun. He would be the Beast for some of it. There'd be some beast fucking. How could there not be?
You're
Ice
totally
cream
right.
Scene off of his like beast nipples.
Lumiere
in Aspen.
Lumiere burning her, right?
The candle wax.
Yeah. Like he's just losing parts of his body, but he doesn't care because he's in ecstasy.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's in ecstasy. Yeah, you're right. It is more fun if that was the treat they were our guesting to. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
I would have enjoyed that. Which kind of leads me down the path of like. Why isn't there more Disney princess fan fiction like this? Or maybe there is, and I just don't want to know about it.
Listen, Adam.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to know about it. Yeah.
You sweet summer child. Yeah, you go right ahead and Google that and see what you get.
No, you're right. I should have. I'm not actually interested in this. Please don't send it to me. I just
Yes.
It's the first time it occurred to me like every one of those movies would be a very funny 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
The
fan fiction world, and this is a generalization, so obviously this isn't for everybody. This is just a lot of. I've talked to people who like fanfic.
Okay.
And I found that they're overwhelmingly ladies, and I think it just has to. And I mean, I mean like erotic stuff.
Right.
And again, that isn't to say that it isn't reversed. It's that I think that's the demographic that is single-handedly pushing erotic fan fiction is that like look to your left, look to your right. Every lady you know is probably secretly going on fanfic sites. That's I think that every time I talk to women about this, they're always like, "Oh yeah, fanfic. That's the thing." And it's because it's written. It's because, and again, this is a generalization, but like I think the fan fiction world is largely dominated by women, kind of like how porn viewership is largely dominated by men.
A thing that I hear,
which again isn't to say that they don't enjoy the other. It's just
right. I mean that makes sense to me. That makes sense. Yeah, because all I can say is I've never earnestly sought out fan fiction and read it.
I think.
I did read, because it became a bit, I did read some of the After Hours fan fiction.
That was delightful.
It was really funny because once in a while they would bring it up And I was like, okay, I need to see what Soren's doing to Daniel. You know what I mean? Like,
it was hot stuff.
Yeah, it was
hot
very
stuff.
hot. It was really hot. Yeah.
No, and I think part of, and again, people who are into fan fiction, I am speaking out my ass here, so I apologize. But I think the reason erotic fan fiction is that you can, it's kind of why there's remakes today, is like you can write erotic fiction and people will read it. But what people will really read is something that's familiar. It's Garfield fucking. It's like, oh yeah, I'll pick up Garfield fucking.
Right.
Or some gimmick. Is like you're a fan fiction or you're an erotic writer and you're like, well, how do I make a mark here? Why do I make a splash? You have Garfield fuck John Arbuckle or you do something that's familiar, and then I think that's how that stuff gets more popular, is that it's just the stories are more familiar. You understand the characters immediately, so it's easier to write good old fuck fiction with people that we already know.
Well,
I know how Picard's going to react to seeing Data's schlong. I know how that dynamic is going to work out. And so if I were to write that, I don't have to think up how to make that work. I can just use what I know about the characters.
Interesting. So I'm looking up most successful fan fiction authors. What looks like
this?
This is number one in terms of published fan fiction. There's a lot of authors who wrote fan fiction that was popular and then actually just moved on and wrote their own individual thing. Cassandra Clare is a name that's popping up, who I believe it got famous for writing Draco Malfoy centric Harry Potter fan fiction.
Yeah,
and a Legolas parody,
Right. Erotic fan fiction or just fan fiction?
I think it's just fan fiction.
Okay. That's better for my brain.
Yeah. I think also there's Marissa Meyer wrote Cinder, which is kind of a Cinderella retelling, but she also wrote Sailor Moon fan fiction, which I'm sure if any property would generate interest. That's it, right?
Right. It's two different subjects too. It's erotic fan fiction and fan fiction.
Right.
I understand fan fiction more. There was of course the Star Wars books.
Right.
Malfoy is a very good example of a character that's like, oh, I'd love to actually read a story about Malfoy.
Well, that's what we were doing during the podcast. So it does naturally happen if you're story minded and you're watching.
We were fanficking the characters in this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone needs to make fanfic about Gia.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that she could actually have been the real sex joker if they really wanted to go wild with this.
Yeah.
They
didn't have enough time. They could have set stuff up. Gia could have been in movie one, but they didn't know what they were making.
Right.
And that is the biggest thing about this that is very obvious, which is it feels like they're improvising as they go.
Well, and they are. I mean, that's what ELJ. Well, they're not as filmmakers, but they were. The author
the writing
was. So it's weird that they didn't hey, let's clean it up a little bit and make a fun story out of it.
All three of these movies could have been one movie, right?
I think
I'm not talking about what could have been, the contract, the better films. You take the story they gave us.
Sure.
I feel like you could have made that one movie.
I think
you could have made the first act the sex stuff, the getting into the kinkiness.
I guess my thing on that. The boss and him being connected to the orphan stuff could have happened. All that's possible. I think the contract actually didn't get enough time. You know what I mean? Because they abandoned it.
You'd cut it out. I'm saying if I did a Topher Grace cut of this, or if I rewrote it, I could condense the broad strokes of these series into a single film easily. Without losing too much, because there's not much here. Right?
I don't think they all go together, but yes. In terms of how much material there is, yes.
Yeah.
In terms of whether it would cohere into a movie, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, no, it'd be a terrible movie.
Yeah. Okay.
At least, I would say maybe the best you could do is two movies. That's what this should have been, is two movies. You could. Yeah. I guess what it is that the first movie, since nothing in that actually pays off, you could kind of eliminate most of that movie.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it ends with them breaking up and then getting back together.
How would you feel if somebody had written fan fiction about Jacob and Renesmee? Like, would that really upset you?
I would feel upset. Yes, I would
Twilight,
feel upset.
Yeah. All right.
I would feel deeply upset.
I always want to know what your limits are, Dave. Like, I feel like
we're already upsetting.
I feel like you and I are always forging a contract for how far edgelordy can we get. That's
would you be into that? Is that like? Are you into that? No.
I never want to see that again. But every time I think of the best thing about Twilight, it's probably the ghoul face from Renesmee, and that's when I realized, like, oh,
horrifying baby. Yeah,
some pervert thought 5 years in the future and wrote that story, right? So that exists somewhere in the world, doesn't it?
Oh, the Twilight fanfic, I imagine, is horrifying. Horrifying. I imagine this is the least horrifying fan fiction to come out of that series, right?
Yeah, but it's so tame. I agree. Like, yeah, I think.
I guarantee there's fan fiction of her fucking those wolves.
Oh, no doubt.
There's bestiality fanfic.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's every kind of fanfic that's what's so funny about this being fan fiction. Is she removed the only interesting thing, which is the wolves and vampires,
right?
And was like,
I agree.
But what if he was just rich and they were having somewhat kinky sex,
and they had handcuffs a few times? It's like, no, I preferred it when sexually he was going to destroy her. And that was the tension. It was like, they shouldn't be doing this, you know?
Yeah, remember how there was that threat of him fucking her to death? And he was like, we can't be together because I'll fuck you to pieces. That was, God damn it.
I know. Like it was like, you know what? Twilight was so earnest. In a way, this movie was never earnest. You know, like earnest and unaware. And it was just like...
It was also way more batshit, where they go out to see like that movie, that weird violent movie. There's these moments where you're like, well, I don't even know why that was in here. And there's so much of that in Twilight. This is just meh.
Yeah. Meh. Yeah, it never rose to the level of like what's going on between her dad and that woman. You know, like just even like that's fan fiction I would be fascinated by. Like their romance story.
Fan fiction of her dad. Going into the
solving crimes,
hitting rock bottom, and then like solving crimes in the town. Real rock bottom shit, and then finding that would have been great.
Forks PD, and he's like solving meth labs and like then
Forks
getting
PD,
hot for
holy shit.
Forks PD. Somebody write that down, producers. Write that down.
Write that down.
Write it down.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That's. I mean, hey man, I could do this all day, Dave. I can come up with more interesting fanfic all day. Are you bored yet? Do you want to quit talking?
We can quit talking. It's okay.
Are you sure?
I have nothing more to say about this series, so.
I have to say, not as fun as the first series. So like,
if somebody can find us, what?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
I was just saying, if someone can find us a series that is that Twilight, obviously we're not going to listen to you necessarily, but we, suggestions are welcome. Is I guess what I'm saying.
I think we're open to continuing to do this every once in a while, right? Like, because it's fun. But
it's fun. We just need the right material.
Yeah, we need the right material. Yeah, this turned out not to be that good. I mean, I'm hoping the podcasts are still great, but like, it didn't. Yeah. Like, at no point was I thinking about how does venom work in the fangs of a vampire. You know, stuff that really thrills me as a podcaster.
No, it was mostly me going, this is bad. And that's it. It was just me going, this is a bad movie.
I'm still intrigued by Divergent, of a movie that series I've never watched.
That feels like our jam. We could do the Divergence, and maybe since those didn't end, we could end with The Giver.
Oh.
Just pile that on there.
Just throw that in there. As the perfect sous-son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or those Maze Runners. I don't know, man.
Sure, Maze Runners, yeah. That's possible.
Yeah, there's something there.
I also think there's got to be some teen slasher series that we just haven't been thinking of that is really
Divergent
dumb,
also has Guyvergent, which is the obvious...
Yeah, Guyvergent, right, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
But yeah, some sort of teen, teens having fun. We're into it. We're into teens having fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a search history. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teens having fun. Well, we survived, Dave. We survived. I'm going to pretend we never did this, right? Like, that's the right move, isn't it?
Yes.
Pretend we never...
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is humiliating.
No, this is, rock bottom. Rock bottom.
Yeah,
Always.
It's pretty bad. Life's pretty bad when we're doing this. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, when we reach those pearly gates, this is going to be the first thing they bring up. They're going to be like, listen, this isn't a hit against you, but we just need to know what was going on here.
Yeah, can you explain this?
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to, Dave. We're not going to be able to do it.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank you.
Yeah, what a joyful opportunity.
For all that you've done. Yeah. And I guess, do you want to plug anything? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I guess.
Do you want to tell the world anything?
Yeah, I do. So the first thing is, I'm sorry for this. Second is, hey, if you want to hear me podcast about something that doesn't hit you in the core of sadness, run on over to iHeart to check out One-Upsmanship, the video game podcast with myself and Michael Swaim. Hey, we're hoping to be the best video game podcast on the airwaves. So help us get there. And if you're, even more interested, if you're like, Adam, I need more than just that. Hey, you can go over to Small Beans, where you'll find 2 other podcasts I do. One of them is Direct Piece Theater with Abraham Epperson, who's beautiful. And the other one is...
It's true.
Yeah, he really is. And the other one is I'll Show You Mine If You Show Me Yours with Maggie Mae Fish, who's also beautiful. I mean, I basically only work with beautiful people, Yeah, that's one of my rules. Look at Dave. Gorgeous. Just gorgeous. So I guess now that I've harassed all of my colleagues, that's enough for me. Hope you enjoyed it.
Did you know?
No.
Do you know there's a Twilight video game?
No, there isn't. Is there really?
I'm looking it up. It appears to be a 2009 Twilight video game. So I don't know why you're not doing a one-upsmanship about that.
Because right? Shit. Seen It Twilight? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I'm seeing one on the fandom, the Wikipedia. Am I wrong? And there's a Breaking Dawn video game?
Breaking Dawn video game. My God. I never even heard of this. I guarantee you.
Available for PlayStation 2 and 3.
There's no world
and Nintendo Wii.
There's no world where Mike and I play this, but man, what a depressing fact. I don't know what the price tag would be for me to play this, but it's high. It's very high.
I don't know. I can't even find screen grabs of it.
Yeah. I don't know if you can. Edge of Twilight is. No. Ugh. No. No, thanks. Sorry, Dave.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell people about our Patreon real quick.
Do what you got to do.
Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
I said it. I said the thing.
Okay, for real. Though. For real. For real though, Dave.
What else is going on?
Are you horrified by the idea that there is a human being out in the world who has written Dave and Gantz fanfic? Are you horrified by that idea?
There is?
There has to be. I just think it's sort of like there has to be life on other planets. The math just says it has to have happened. You know what I mean? The math just says that.
I mean,
Dave.
if someone did, look, I'll read it. I'll jerk off to it. I won't be happy about it. I won't want to.
Yeah, forlornly.
I'm not going to enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I don't like it either.
Yeah.
But if you're that person, or if you just got to this part of the podcast, please put hashtag Dave Gantz fanfic so that we know you listened to the podcast this far. And because I guess we don't want to be happy. Please prevent us from being happy.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And also, if you've written that, stay away from us.
Yeah, I don't want to hear from you. This is not an invitation that you're my friend. You're not my friend.
No, I don't want that. I don't want that in my life. Hashtag I don't want that in my life. Hashtag mournful masturbation.
Hashtag edgelord too far. Yeah. Hashtag edgelord karma.
Edging. Yep. Hashtag Beauty and the Beast porn.
Wait, so I haven't heard the intro to this podcast yet. Is it going to be vampires? Is it going to be vampires again?
Yeah.
It's just...
What else could it be?
I don't know. It delights me so much to think that Tom has to do this. It really delights me.
Oh, yeah. He already recorded it. I haven't listened to it yet, but he recorded it.
Oh, my God. God. Yeah. This is a horrible thing we're doing. This is just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is a part of me is missing, and I'll never get it back.
Not enough money, not enough helicopter rides or plane ownership in the world to make up for this, Dave.
No. But it's over.